their presence audibly. Representative O'Toole.
Here.
Senator Hayes. Here. Senator Hukill.
Here.
Representative Sullivan.
Here.
And Representative Metz here. So we have everyone present and we have quorum. And I'd like to take this moment now to introduce my district staff. Jennifer Wiley is my district aide. Jennifer, would you please stand? Jennifer was responsible for helping me put this together. The agenda that you have is something she prepared, and we've received all the input and organized the notebooks for the members. And it's done topically, so as we go through these issues this afternoon, we'll see them grouped together, so it'll make a better understanding by the members when we are focusing all on education issues at one time, and then maybe water and other types of issues. So I appreciate your good work, Jennifer, on that. And I'd like to ask the other members at this time to introduce themselves and their staff, and maybe tell a little bit about their district and their committee assignments, and then we'll move forward. Chair O'Toole.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I represent District 33, which is a portion of Lake County. It's all of Sumter County and a portion of Marion County. I was reappointed yesterday to Chair of Education, so I'm excited about that. And I'm just anxious to hear all the things and thoughts and concerns of you all from my delegation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Senator Hayes.
I'm Alan Hayes, the Senator for District 11. The boundaries of the district are State Road 40 at Silver Springs and the Lake Polk County line on the south, I-75 on the south side of Ocala, and the Wekiva River north of Orlando and Popka. Thank you for being here today. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and I'm going to hush.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and Vice Chair Hukill, Senator Hukill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you all for coming here today. I'm Dorothy Hukill. I represent District 8, Senate District 8, which includes parts of Lake County, Marion County, and Volusia County. I have with me on my far right, Lindsay Swindle, who's my legislative assistant, and she's also going to be the timekeeper today. Some of you may know my legislative assistant, who is actually stationed in my Ocala office, and that's Connie Mullis. But Connie is ill today, so she could not join us, but sends her best. The Senate has not received their assignments, their committee assignments yet. However, for the past 2 years, I've chaired Finance and Tax, which deals with all the tax issues, and sat on 7 other committees, which covers a myriad of issues. I want to thank you all for coming today, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Sullivan.
Thank you. I represent House District 31, which includes part of Apopka and Orange County, and goes all the way to the line out by Astor, and then includes part of Leesburg, Tavares, Eustis, Mount Dora, Sorrento, so that portion of the area. And we haven't received our committee assignments in the House as well yet, just the chairmanships, which congratulations on both of your chairmanships. And I'd like to introduce my staff. I have the privilege of having Sharon Neary, if you'll stand, as my legislative assistant. If you need any legislation needs. And also Tessa Woodward, if you'll stand, she'll be my district secretary. And our office doors are always open to you. We're only a phone call away, so please let us know how we can serve you.
Great, thank you. And I didn't mention my district. It's District 32, which is all of Leesburg, including where we are right now, as well as everything south in Lake County, all the way to the county line. That's District 32, holier than Lake County. And what I'd like to do before we proceed into the actual agenda items, just mention a few things to the audience here. We've allotted 4 hours for this public hearing today, which should be plenty of time, but we're going to have a 3-minute limit on the presentations at the microphone. And if we have any questions from the legislative delegation members, then that would probably be in addition to the 3 minutes. We wouldn't take that at a time, but we want to try to move it expeditiously, make sure everybody is heard today. The other thing I want to mention to you is that although this is our one and probably only formal public hearing in Lake County this year, which we do one every year typically as a matter of history, the opportunities for communication with your representatives and senators is really up to you. I know that every one of these members here has an open door policy with their constituents, and if you have a need for more input than we are able to receive here in this setting, don't be discouraged by that. Just reach out to us and schedule meetings either here or in the Capitol if you come up to Tallahassee. We certainly love to see folks from back home in Tallahassee when we're up there inundated with the process and with all the folks that are keeping us busy up there, it's always refreshing to have someone from home pop in and just say, I was in the Capitol, I want to make sure I saw you, and we always find time for you. Every one of us up here will do that. So I encourage you to do that as well. So thank you again for being here today. This is a very important part of the legislative process for the delegation to receive your input. And we're grateful that everybody was able to come and provide us with the input. So the first thing we're going to do before we get to the actual presentations is just acknowledge that we have Lake County Legislative Delegation Rules of Procedure. They're in the notebooks, members. I didn't receive any requests for modifications or amendments to those. So I assume that we can proceed forward with those as they are shown in the book there. And I don't know if we have to have a formal adoption at this point. They've been adopted, but just should we do that, Chair? Okay. Well, then the Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the Lake County Legislative Delegation Rules of Procedure, re-adopt them as they are shown in the book. Very well. We will show that that motion was made by Representative Sullivan and seconded by Senator Hayes. Any discussion? Very well. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. Then we've at least dotted that I and crossed that T to have our rules of procedure adopted again. That brings us to item number F on the agenda, appointments. We have the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council that by statute, the delegation is responsible for making those appointments. And we do have in the book one application from Stephanie J. Bishop, professional engineer, and behind that letter of resume is the enabling legislation for the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council members. So this is for your background information, but this is not a very complicated appointment because we have only one applicant for one position, and she's highly qualified. So if there's any questions, we can entertain them. Otherwise, I entertain a motion to appoint Stephanie J. Bishop, PE, to the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chair O'Toole. Second by Senator Hukill, Vice Chair. Any discussion, members? Very well. Hearing none, then all in favor of the appointment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Very well. Carries unanimously. And Stephanie J. Bishop, PE, is appointed to the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council. That brings us to item G on the agenda, presentations. The first grouping is county and city topics in general. And we're going to hear first from the chair of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners, the Honorable Jimmy Connor. 3 minutes is allotted, and Lindsay is gracious enough to keep time, and she'll give you a signal when you're getting near the end. Chairman Connor?
I'll give you the signal when you start the clock. Mr. Chairman, good to see you today, and thank you for having us. I'm here on behalf of the Board of County Commission. We have provided you hard copies of our legislative platform, but what I want to say, first of all, is that we appreciate all you do for us. And we've had a great relationship with our legislative delegation. We look forward to a great relationship with Representative Sullivan. She spoke at a county commission meeting when she was 16 or 17, and I knew she was going places. I just didn't know where she was going and how fast she was going to get there. But we look forward to having a good relationship with you as well. But thank y'all for all you do for staying in touch with us. We know how to get you when we need you. Very briefly, we want to emphasize 4 areas today: economic development, human services, environmental issues, and transportation. Specifically, we ask your continued support for the Lake Tech Center for Advanced Manufacturing, and we also ask your support for the Science Lab at the South Lake campus of Lake Sumter State College. So you can see that, our requests are somewhat integrated with education. Representative O'Toole, that's a prestigious chairmanship. Congratulations. I'm really proud to hear that. Also, we ask your continued support of live streaming. It's unbelievable if you've never been over there. What you see a part of Lake County you don't see if you're ever in that building. And so, you've been gracious in your support in the past of live streaming, and we ask your continued support. And if you can see your way to help the county on the acetyl fuel spill remediation, where those cleanups are quite expensive, and we certainly are doing everything we can to avoid polluting Lake out of there. And in the area of transportation, we ask for you to continue to maintain funding for the Transportation Disadvantage Program and for you to support funding for the Citrus Grove Road Urban Collector Project, as well as 466A. We've had a great partnership with the villages. They step up. And Mr. Chairman, I always try to take less than 3 minutes, but it's an honor to be here, and thank you all very much.
Chairman Connor, thank you very much. And before you leave, any questions, members? Very well. Thank you. And what I'm going to do now is announce the next 2 speakers so that the one behind the one who's at the podium can position themselves maybe in the front row to save a little time in the process. So right here now we'll hear from the Honorable Welton Cadwell, who is here in his capacity as a board member of the St. John's River Alliance, and we will have him followed by the Honorable Michael Holland.
Thank you, Representative Metz, and we appreciate you all taking the time to be here today. I get to go around the state, the Florida Association of Counties, and I always brag on our delegation and how you're there for us, and if we need you, I had to call you, and I knew you were busy during the session, and you always call me right back, and I do appreciate it. I'm here today, though, as a board member of the St. John's River Alliance, which I represent our board, the Lake County Board of County Commissioners on this group. We're here more to thank you than anything else. I've got Mark Middlebrook with me, who's our executive director, and you all may know Mark already. He's a statewide resource. He's been utilized by us in local government, also the city of Jacksonville, the governor, and the legislature themselves. And so we really appreciate Mark. So if you have any questions of substance, I'll let him answer. But I do want to thank you for your support of the St. John's River Restoration Projects. The current projects we have going right now is the Stetson University Water Symposium that we'll hold this year, which was an outfall from the meeting we had last year. And the topics will be kind of a Water 101 course, the discussion on the state springs, the current water issues with that, the impact on sea level rise on water supply and water quality. We'll have scientists, academic professors, and some legislators. The invitations went out today. So when you get back to your office by tomorrow, hopefully you'll have an invitation to join us on that. The one thing I can tell you about the St. Johns River Alliance is I know people that get that something's in their heart and they get involved with it and become agitators. I can tell you the St. Johns River Alliance, we're facilitators. We've always tried to find a solution and keep everybody at the table. And you saw that last year at Stetson when we held the first summit. We had cities, counties, water management districts, legislators. It was just an environmentalist. It was just a great conversation, and we're going to continue to do that. I also want to thank you for the St. Johns River Blueway. The state designated the entire river as a paddling trail, and whether you care about that or not, the economic impact of that is going to be great for us. We received a grant and hired a Orlando-based marketing firm to produce the videos, which will involve our local small businesses, fish camps, restaurants. It'll have an access map to the St. John's with the parks, anything, the launches will all be part of that. And we're getting ready to work on our YouTube channel for the St. Johns River. So we're doing that, and we're working with our local county tourism bureaus to make sure that we have all of their information. And Visit Florida, of course, is a big partner with us on that. Also, last year you funded the economic development, an economic impact study. And the University of North Florida is coordinating that, and that should be done in mid-December. So we'll have those numbers too. And then last, this is the only ask I'm asking today, and it doesn't involve money. Is years ago, Senator King, because of his long love of the river and being in Duval County, was our guy. We always went to him. Senator Thrasher formalized the St. John's River Caucus back in 2010. We would hope somebody from Central Florida, and I would love it to be one of my delegations, step forward and offer to chair that caucus for us in Tallahassee.
Commissioner, thank you very much for your input today. Any members, any questions? Very well, thank you, sir. The Honorable Michael Holland is up, followed by the Honorable Evelyn Wilson. Is Commissioner Holland here? I don't see him. How about Evelyn Wilson, the Honorable Evelyn Wilson, Councilmember from the City of Brooklyn? And then after Ms. Wilson will be T.J. Fish. How are you? Councilmember, how are you today? Very good.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm part of the delegate
Committee and growth development. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting to be speaking. The Growth Management and Economic Affairs Committee, and I'm hoping that you will continue the funding for DRIs for the cities. It's an important issue for us. I know that's one thing that they've been discussing about possibly cutting or cutting some of the funding for it. And I hope you would consider keep on pushing for it. The other issue was, I know I had sent the information, like I said, I wasn't expecting to be speaking. Definitely, I support Commissioner Connors with the transportation and I'm sorry.
Yeah, take your time, Ms. Wilson. We have you down for 2015 legislative action on enterprise zones and developments of regional impact.
Right, on the enterprise zones, it was supposed to be possibly ending in December of 2015, and the committee is also hoping that you will keep it funded and keep it going because we need that help towards the economic development. Again, thank you for
very
your
much
time.
for your input today. Any questions, members? Okay. So we'll move on to T.J. Fish, the Executive Director of the Lake Sumter Metropolitan Planning Organization, followed by Mark Duchesne, President of the Chamber Alliance of Lake County.
Please, hello, Mr. Representative, Senators. Appreciate the opportunity. I want to talk transportation real quick. We gave you our positions ahead of time, hard copies bound for you. That just want to point out a couple. Not really asking for much this year, but just keep in mind that one of the points that come up every year that seems to not make any traction with the legislature is that the Florida gas tax goes up every year. And it never makes the headlines for some reason, and it's because it's indexed to the consumer price index. But for some reason, the first local option gas taxes to the locals, it's never been indexed. We don't understand the logic behind that. So that's one that may not make it again this year, but we want you to be aware, as a matter of equity, why not index all fuel taxes? It's a progressive tax that's already taken a beating because of fuel efficiency of the cars. So just want to keep in mind. I want to thank you, really, this is the big thing today. We got some really good things going on with the Coast to Coast Trail. It's great to see the legislature put some funding toward that and make state funds available. And we hope that you'll support anything else that comes down the pipe that would allow these regional trails to promote ecotourism in Florida. Thank you so much for your support on 466A as well. The $1 million appropriation on top of the fact that we've already gotten a 50-50 matching grant from DOT. That's gotten phase 1. The villages has helped with phase 2. And now we still have phase 3 in the middle. So if there's anything that you can do in terms of appropriation or just whispering to Secretary Downs that another grant would be appropriate, that would be great. Also down around the Mineola interchange, Lake County's already mentioned to you Citrus Grove Road. We've got money to design it. We're starting to talk about right-of-way money, but we're going to have to build that road and we do not have the construction funds. And then one other one that's really unique is we really want to get Mount Dora connected to the Coast to Coast Trail, and we want to do it on the old rail bed to Sorrento. And that's the Locke Trail. The problem is we have to deal with both CSX, who owns the dirt, and Florida Central Railroad, who owns the tracks. And so any help that we get in terms of appropriation for right-of-way, we'll work with Mount Dora and Lake County to come up with some local funding, and then pursuing traditional DOT funding for the trail construction. So a lot happened in that Locke Trail. We already have 2 out of 4 pieces committed to be built. So this piece to Mount Dora would be the last big piece. So I'll stop there. Those are the projects we wanted to hit. And again, thank you for what you were able to accomplish for Lake County this last go-round. Any questions of me?
Thank you. Questions, members? Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Fish.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Duchesne, followed by the Honorable Debbie Steininger.
I'll be speaking for Mark Duchesne and the board. The Chamber Alliance did. They were unable to attend today. I'm Hannah on behalf of the board of the Lake County Chamber Alliance. The Chamber Alliance is a representative of the Lake County Chambers and their 3,500 combined members. And what the Alliance does is it facilitates communication between the chambers and advocates for the behalf on matters of public policy. In this regard, what the Chamber is presenting today is on Lake Legislative Days, formerly known as Lake County Days, which the Alliance is pleased to once again sponsor this year. What we do with that is work with the chambers across the county, delegates, directors, and partners. What we're doing is we're traveling to Tallahassee in February to advocate on different issues across Lake County. The Chamber Alliance doesn't put together their own agenda. We take the agendas of 7 different committees that we have established across the county. Many of the initiatives that we're supporting this year will be presented today or regarded if they've been presented today. Our 7 committees that we'll be bringing to Tallahassee and meeting with you legislators in the coming months will be economic development, local government, transportation, social services. We have 2 new additions this year of education being split into K-12 and post-secondary, as well as healthcare. One of the benefits of the Chamber Alliance is that it serves as a point of different organizations across the county coming together, and they can facilitate everything in one central location. For example, through Chamber Alliance, we have many members of the County Commission, school board, faculty of Lake Sumter State College, healthcare professionals across the county who can come together and bring their issues, which we'll be bringing to review this year and up to Tallahassee in February. The dates for Lake Legislative Days this year will be February 17th and 18th, and we look forward to, over the coming months, getting Lake Legislative Days going early, by meeting with you early, and bringing the initiatives from across the county to you. And thank you for the support of the Chamber Alliance so far in the future. I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Mrs. Shane. Appreciate that. And please convey our thanks to the rest of the Alliance about the hard work that goes into coordinating Lake County Legislative Days. It is very important to us to get that input. Thank you. And we have now the Honorable Debbie Steidinger, Chair of the School Board of Lake County, followed by Dr. Charles Mojob. Chair, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having us here. And I did want to welcome Representative Sullivan. Good to have you on, and a young person who will understand education, I'm hoping. And the woman who already understands education, Ms. Marlene O'Toole, I'm glad you're back on as the chair. We always come for funding. Funding is always a need in any school district, because our funds come from the state, as you well know. But this year, our main focus has been on the Florida Standard Assessments, or what is called Common Core. Our concerns are for our students, our parents, our communities, our teachers. The way that it has been set up by the state, by DOE, it is a total burden to all of us. It is not going to hold us accountable. It will not make us have increased rigor and academic standards. And in your packet, you will have our legislative priorities, which the accountability issue is the first thing on there, with the school grades, the end of course. The funding is always there, the state assessments, and student safety. But the resolution that we approved as a board basically sums it up, and that will take up my 3 minutes probably. I'm going to read the last paragraph, and you do have this in your packet. The School Board of Lake County requests that the state legislature and the governor of Florida provide a 3-year transition to invest in the complete development of all components required for a high-quality, valid, reliable, and defendable assessment and state accountability system in Florida. We would like the legislators, in cooperation with the Florida Department of Education, to delay the use of the Florida standards results in determining our school grades, our student promotion, our graduation, or for teacher evaluation during these 3 years of this transition time period. Further, the use of the state student assessment data in the interim should be used solely for diagnostic purposes to ensure that we are doing the assessment and accountability, and that we do have a fair and equitable system to educate our children. And that is what our request is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any questions, members? Yeah, yes, Chair O'Toole.
Thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Where does Lake County stand on their distribution of computers? Are you 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1?
1 to 4.
You're at 1-to-1.
1 to 4.
May I ask you
4.
1-to-4.
We do not have enough computers, and that's part of the legislation that we have set. Our standardized testing will be done next year. We don't have those.
Second question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your testing schedule. Last night we were in Sumter County, and they gave us a testing schedule of not only what the state asked, but what your testing schedules are. Could you get me one of those for
Yes,
Lake County?
Be glad to, and we have adjusted that since we had it, and there's a group of parents behind me that have been there to our board meetings, and we told them they needed to come and speak with you. But we have adjusted where we're not doing as many of those on our own district level because of the requirement from the state. But I will send that to you right now.
Okay, and may I ask a third question? Thank you. Financial literacy, I understand that's required in the 4th grade, 8th grade, and then in the 12th grade.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you send me a copy of the testing so I can see if there's any financial literacy questions in that final test in the 12th grade?
Yes, ma'am.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Chair, President Sullivan has a question.
I'm glad y'all are asking questions. This is the most important thing here in this county. Yes.
Well, my questions would be the same. If you could send me the testing schedule and also.
I will send it to all of you.
Okay, that would
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
And Chair, there was something else that I think Vice Chair Mathias was working on, which was the capital funding piece as well.
Yes, he is.
And you're working on that still. That would be something.
Yes, and we will be getting that to you. Harry Fix is working on that right now, him and the staff.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, next up is Dr. Charles Mojak, the president of Lake Sumter State College, followed by Dr. Dan Hilsenbeck from UCF. Dr. Mojak, before you begin, before we start the timer on you, I just want to again express the appreciation of the delegation to you and your team here, Linda Holloman and Greg Brunva and others who worked so hard to put the facility together for us and to host the meeting that we're having today. So thank you for your warm hospitality. And with that, you're recognized to present.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to all our members of the delegation. We do welcome you on behalf of our trustees, faculty, staff, and students. It's always great to have you here and share some hospitality with you. You are always so hospitable, and your wonderful staff. Anytime we call or visit, whether it's here in the district office or in Tallahassee, we know we're going to get a warm welcome and an ear that's listening. You really care, and it shows. We're very fortunate to have you as a delegation. First, let me thank you for the support last year on a couple of issues, but they are continuing issues. The science lab facility that we've been working so hard to get on our South Lake campus. You heard the county mentioning that. We were funded for $3 million by the legislature last year, thanks to your strong and effective leadership. We also have $1 million commitment from South Lake Hospital, $1 million from Lake Sumter State College Foundation, and $600,000 pledged by our trustees. So we feel we're about halfway there. We need about $6 million more for the building. We may need more for equipment, but we're fundraising and working hard on that effort. Because of your support, we were able to mobilize our partners and are working with South Lake Hospital, Lake County Schools, Montford Academy, and the University of Central Florida to create this seamless program starting in grade 9 in a Health Sciences Collegiate Academy that will lead those students through a rigorous curriculum, get them ready to come to us as juniors in dual enrollment, and move forward either with their AA degree onto UCF or an AS degree into the healthcare workforce that is so desperately needed. $6 million will help us finish that project, and we hope we can get your leadership and support again. The second one you helped us with was an operational funding. For whatever reason, Lake County, often lower on the distribution of funding. We were second lowest in the state. Thanks to your help, we were able to move up several notches and are just 2% behind the state average at this point, and we ask that you continue to help us to bridge that gap and move up at least to the state average. In addition, our system-wide funding, we're about level on a per-student basis from where we were in 2006, 2007. When you look at cost increases and inflation, we're almost $800 per student down from that point. Third area is PICO. We're very concerned. PICO has been basically broke. There are no new projects able to be funded. We can't even get maintenance money out of it. You've come up with some non-recurring funds to help us, but we haven't seen a PICO estimate. We haven't seen any list yet. We had 2 projects, the infrastructure on this Leesburg campus, which is 50-plus years, and $900,000 for our facilities building that the foundation purchased, and we need to pay them back. That'll do it.
Please continue.
The final policy issues, 2 things. We've done a lot of things. You directed us on gen ed, developmental ed, dual enrollment, collegiate high schools. We asked that we just kind of get a chance to catch our breath, work through those before we have new policy issues. And the final item is the baccalaureate moratorium. That's set to expire May of 2015. We believe we've shown we follow legislative intent with these programs, and our local workforce, employers need these programs. We want to deliver them. So thank you again for all your support and help. We look forward to seeing you in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Dr. Mojak. Appreciate that. Any questions, members? Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Dan Holzenbeck, otherwise known as Captain Dan Holzenbeck, to us who are in the military. Good afternoon, Dr. Captain.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your service in the Marine Corps also. I might add the Marine Corps is a subset of the Navy in case.
Doctor, I think you remind me of that every time we meet.
Hopefully you're not asking for anything now.
I will of education, Representative O'Toole. And Lindsay, I hope you're just now starting the clock. Our star scholar, Lindsay, so thank you very much. And Senator Hayes, I promise I'm not going to waste any time commiserating about your Gators' loss and my Auburn Tigers' loss. We'll talk about UCF's win. So
wait till next year.
You got it right. So, seriously, I know time is short, and I want to mention 3 very serious projects. I think you know that over the years that I've been coming before you, you'll notice that UCF talks about community economic development opportunities, which we choose to participate in because our mission is partnerships and service to our community. So although we do great academic partnerships, and you just heard from President Mojak, I want to look at 3 large economic development projects. Very quickly, we are beginning to do, in partnership with the City of Orlando, to develop a downtown campus modeled after Arizona State's campus in Phoenix. We think this has tremendous impact on the City of Orlando, and I think all of you would agree. What is good for Orlando is good for the entire area, Central Florida region. So we're looking at a major move there to locate several programs and other activities, and eventually create a campus of 10,000 to 12,000 students. It will be a partnership with Valencia College. Number 2, an issue which Representative Metz, you and I talked about last year because it involves the military, it involves the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, Coast Guard, Homeland Security, and several other agencies. And that is trying to save the cluster of the simulation and modeling industry, which is located in our research park right next to UCF. This is an industry which supports 60,000 jobs already statewide. In Central Florida alone, about 25,000 jobs with average salaries in excess of $80,000 a year. If we don't provide additional joint use space for this cluster, we're going to lose it given budget sequestration, budget cuts, and the potential of BRAC. Most of you know about that. I briefed you before. You were very kind to give us money to plant and acquire land. Now we need to move into the construction of a building. Lastly, the new International Advanced Manufacturing Research Center in Osceola County. This is a manufacturing research center that doesn't make anything. It develops the process for manufacturing sensors, which is the next generation of chips. And I will say to you that I don't need to go into how important this is when I conclude by telling you that Osceola County has already signed the documents, broken ground, and committed over $100 million to do this project. This is no small activity, and it will have an impact on both Lake and Sumter counties. I'll be glad to answer questions, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Any questions, members? Well, thank you, Dr. Holzenbeck.
Thank you.
Those are very exciting projects, all 3 of them. Thank you very much for letting us know.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next up is Marcia Hilty, Circuit Director of the Florida Guardian Ad Litem Program, followed by Wayne Humphrey. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. If anyone here wants to address the delegation later in this meeting, and you haven't already done so, there are public appearance record forms in the back that you can fill out and turn to Jennifer here in the front, and we'll get you in queue for that later on during the general public input section. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. Jennifer wanted me to remind you all of that. Okay, thank you. We're now back to the next presenter, which is number 10, Marcia Hilty, Circuit Director of the Florida Guardian Ad Litem Program. Good afternoon, Ms. Hilty.
Thank you, Chairman.
How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing quite well, thank you. I'm so very pleased to be here today because I have nothing but good news to report. As you can see in your packets, over the last fiscal year, we represented 588 abused and neglected children here in the Lake County area. We're currently representing 98% of the 300 dependent children who are on our rolls. This is significant in that in past years we have not been able to get to that number, so we're very pleased. Our numbers are going in the right direction. We've been going downward, which is a welcome sign for Lake County. And I attribute a lot of that to the fine work that our local representatives in this community are doing. We partner with various organizations, our local schools. Our county administration has been very supportive of our efforts, and thus I think we're reaping the rewards of those actions. Today I wanted to just clarify a couple of things that came up in our Sumter County meeting last night. I got on the phone to Mr. Abramowitz as soon as I left the meeting last night, and a question came up about whether or not we had been given monies to represent 100% of our children. It seemed like there was some confusion around that. My understanding is the request that was made last year was to represent 100% of the children who were out of home, meaning they were placed in foster care with relatives or non-relatives. I think we've come very close to achieving that goal. I know in the Fifth Judicial Circuit we are doing quite well in that regard. The extra funds that my executive director will be requesting this coming year will allow us to get to 100% representation on all children who are involved in our dependency courts. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to make that clear. Again, from my standpoint here in Lake County, we have adequate numbers of volunteers for the first time in the 4 years that I've been supervising the program. We are getting the word out that we continuously need volunteers. The cases that we're seeing, unfortunately, are generally worse than what we've had in previous years because of the new methodology that the Department of Children and Families has implemented. They are doing everything possible to keep children at home, provide wraparound services, and thus, when those services fail, you can be sure that the situation is quite severe. I'm pleased to answer any questions that you may have of me today. That's all I have to say for this afternoon.
Thank you. Chair O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question that I didn't ask last night. You mentioned here there are 290 abused and neglected children in Lake County. Excuse me, what is their age group? Do you have that?
Yes, 88% of the children that we represent are below 12 years of age.
You said that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, members? Representative Sullivan?
Mine is more a statement than a question, but just speaking with Leon Libby and Lou Brown, who are also pertinent items with your program, I just want to thank you for all you're doing, and as the director, I've heard incredible stories over the past year of children's lives that truly are so much different. So thank you for your efficiency and the fact that you really do help children and your results I've been able to see in here. So thank you for what you're doing and being on the front lines of that day in and day out. No, I appreciate it.
Please let me say that the two individuals that you referenced are cream of the crop. I can say nothing better about them. They're excellent individuals. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Felty. Appreciate your good work. All right, next is Wayne Humphrey, the Senior Vice President of Public Policy for the YMCA of Central Florida, followed by Wesley Locke, Assistant Principal at Springfield Charter School. Mr. Humphrey,
good afternoon, distinguished members of the Lake County Delegation. It's a privilege to stand before you, and I bring you greetings from the YMCA of Central Florida, Jim Ferber, President and CEO. At issue today are our children. There are 500,000 children in Central Florida, school age. We have a YMCA in all six Central Florida counties: Brevard, Marion, Lake, Seminole, Osceola, and Orange. And we want to begin making a significant impact in the summer learning loss of children. There are so many children who don't go on vacations, who come from homes where they cannot afford this. They're not learning new words, new phrases, seeing new situations, experiencing new opportunities. And we believe that the YMCA has a basic responsibility of being in the summer programming business for children. Last summer, we saw 23,000 children. We moved them 36 Lexile points in reading, math, and science, coupled with health and wellness. So they not only had fun, they not only built their health skills, but they built their academic skills. We believe that year over year, with them participating in the summer programming, to decrease learning loss, that they can be at parity and be ready for high school and go all the way through and on into college with the basic reading, writing, good old arithmetic, right, and science. We are here before you today because of this, and that we would like very much your consideration at the state budget level for $2.25 billion to fund this across all 6 counties, and that our responsibility is, 1, to deliver as we have said we would do, and 2, to make sure that we maximize the resource by seeking matching funds so that we can continue this program in years to come. We believe that we are partners with the Legislative Delegation. We are grateful for this privilege, and that we are confident that with our track record and our key and serious data collection, that we are making the difference that children need to stave off summer learning loss. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that information. Questions, members? Sullivan.
Did I hear correctly, the request is for $2.25 million?
Yes.
Okay, and is that for fiscal year to operate your program? Or
Yes, we want to. We really want to get this swung into action for the summer of 2015.
In your matching funds, have you already?
We are talking with local foundations, regional foundations, state foundations, and national foundations. In the national mix is Kresge, Casey, Ford. We're in touch with Darren Walker over at Ford, who's the new presidency of the Ford Foundation. Because in the suite of all these foundations is education. We know that if we can sustain children across those summer time frames, the summer represents almost a single marking period. And if we can keep them engaged intellectually and physically and socially, we know that we can take them all the way through high school and into college.
Do you have any partnerships secured thus far?
Yes, we do. We have partnerships with Orange County. The Citizens Commission for Children, Tyler Ritzel, has led that for the past 15 years, and that program has been for 14 straight years. We have half of the middle school programs, and the Boys and Girls Clubs have the other half in Orange County. We have seen 180,000 children in that program for middle schoolers, and that we track them. We can tell you when they graduated from high school, when they graduated from college, when they went to graduate school, and now that they have entered the world of work. So we have a very strong track record. Mr. Crisopoli is going to be visiting our program. He is the designated speaker.
Pardon me real quick. I hate to interrupt you, but just for the sake of time and other speakers, specifically, out of the partnerships, have they already committed to the 2.25 million, or are there additional funds?
No, it's the 2.25 million, and that we have met with all of the chair people for the delegations around the 6 counties, and we will go before their full delegation, like we're here next week. We will go before Orange County. The following week, we go before, I believe, Marion County, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that satisfied your question.
Okay, Chair O'Toole.
I have just one question, sir.
Sure.
What is the cost per student? How many students will that money serve?
1,400.
1,400.
Yes,
Okay.
1,400 students.
Thank you.
And that's probably roughly about 125 or 100 students per site.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is that take care of everybody? All right. Mr. Humphrey, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you for this privilege.
Thank you, sir. Wesley Locke, Assistant Principal of Spring Creek Charter School, is next, followed by Stuart Klatte, President of the Lake County Education Association. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Locke.
Good afternoon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me speak today. My name is Wes Locke. I'm the Assistant Principal at Spring Creek Charter School, a K-8 District Conversion Charter School here in Lake County. I'd like to give you an administrator's perspective on what I would consider excessive testing in our school system right now. On November 9th, the New York Times article states, quote, "In Florida, which tests students more frequently than most other states, many schools this year will dedicate on average 60 to 80 days out of the 180-day school year to standardized testing." A 10th grade teacher in Lake County recently told me that last year she lost nearly 80 days of instruction due to testing. This year the impact will be much worse given the addition of mandatory EOCs for every course offered. Students in grades 8 through 11 will have 90 minutes to read 2 to 4 documents, develop a plan, write a final product including references, and edit their final product. That must be at least 1,100 words for the new FSA writing assessment. We are now taking time during class to teach keyboarding and exposing them to the computer software that they will have to use to do this test. All this takes time away from core instruction. Because of a lack of computers district-wide and the design of the test, the design of the test administration, there's not adequate time for makeup tests. Our libraries and computer labs will virtually be useless from March to the end of the year. Every student, kindergarten through 12th grade, will spend the last week of school taking multiple EOCs. I could go on, but I only have 3 minutes. Let me ask you a question. Why are we doing this? There's really one answer, and that's accountability. And every parent, teacher, administrator, legislator agrees that we need accountability, but not at the expense of our children's education. Children are awake approximately 6,000 hours a year. Teachers get about 1,000 of those hours to teach. If you take out absences, lunch, other special events, teachers really get about 700 hours a year. If at least a third of that time is spent on testing, they're now down to somewhere around 450 to 500 hours, or around 77 days, to actually teach reading, grammar, spelling, math, social studies, science, art, music, foreign language, physical education, and other subjects. How can we hold students, teachers, principals, and districts accountable to a test that is causing us to spend inordinate amounts of time for needed instruction required to pass that same test? There is a better way, but my time is almost up, so I beg that you stay in this conversation. If you don't talk to me, talk to other educators. We can all tell you how this affects the learning of our children and our education system as a whole. I'm willing to speak to all of you and help develop better accountability systems in education, but we must first agree the current system is failing our students, and we must make a change quickly. Our children cannot afford to lose years of quality education to a failing system. Not one more year. It's time our children will never regain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. You can stay there for a question or two coming. Chair O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. It seems like we've added more skills to what we learned when we went in the 50s. Would you agree in the 60s? We didn't have computers, we didn't have all that. With that being said, there's more to be learned. The competition is no longer state to state, it's now outside of our country. Do you think it makes sense to add more money to the pot and add some extra days of education and come away from 180, which we've had since 1952?
I believe that adding days right now, in the current situation that we're in time-wise, is not going to help a whole lot. The amount of time that we have now, the 180 days that we have now, so much of it is being wasted because of this other stuff that we have to do that is mandated from the federal level, from the state level, that we don't have the time. Our teachers don't have the time to teach the students the standards that we have. If we added more days, sure, they could add if you added 200 days, if you add another 20 days to the schedule, you might really gain 4 or 5 days out of that, instruction-wise, but there's still going to be all this other stuff that has to be done in that 20 days.
Follow. Not going past what I understand what you said about too much testing and too much of this. My single question is, should we as a legislature be looking at funding more days for education, period? Because every year someone will come, I think Representative Hukill will put a bill up that add half a credit towards graduation on financial literacy, which I think financial literacy is very, very important, and that bill is up. Should we add more time to the day? Should children be going to school in the United States for more than 180 days? That was my question. Thank you.
And if you want to answer that, you're very welcome to, or if you feel you already have, you're welcome to.
And I think that's a question for you that you all have to decide. We could use the extra days, the kids could use the extra days, but I mean, funding now is a challenge. So how are you going to fund even more days? That's a huge expense.
I understand the dilemma. My only question was, would they embrace the fact if we added more days to education?
Unqualified, no.
Thank you.
I would have to say only if other things change.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. Thank you for being here for the presentation and for what you do there at Spring Creek. My question is an alternative. If we're successful in convincing the majority of the legislators that the current situation is a train wreck that has to be cleaned up immediately, what would be your suggested alternative? Would it be acceptable to go back to the standards and the testing that we were using in, say, 2008 or 2010 and just use that as a fallback position? Or is there a better fallback position that we should ascribe to?
I think there are many ways that we can assess students and whether or not students are learning, and there's many ways we can assess whether teachers are doing a good job. As an administrator, I want you to trust me. Trust me that I can tell if my teachers are doing a good job, and if my teachers aren't doing a good job, then it's up to me to make those changes. If I don't, then somebody needs to fire me. But the point is, until we figure out that we're wasting so much time during the day, that is what's stressing my teachers out. My teachers are panicked over time. If you talk to a teacher, they will tell you they are panicked over time because there are so many other things they have to do, and so many times that kids get taken out of their class. Realize that every time the EOC is taken, the student has to take a practice EOC on the computer if it's going to be a computer-based test. They have to go take a practice EOC first. So that's a day out of class. Teachers can't introduce new content if half their class is gone all the time. So they're panicked over time. But there's lots of ways to assess and find out if people are doing a good job.
Well, if you will, I'd like you to send me your suggestions, specific suggestions, because as you know, knowing you as I've known you for all the years, I trust your judgment and I trust your will to eliminate teachers that can't be remediated. But you know as well as I do, probably better than I do, that across this state, not every administrator has the integrity and the fortitude that you have. And there are a small number, but a very important number of teachers that are not performing well and need to be eliminated. And to your point, I think it's right for us to trust the administrators, but many of them are not doing it. The teachers know which administrators are quality administrators and which ones aren't. But it's because of those poor performances from administrators and from teachers that we find ourselves in the dilemma we're in today. The public, rightfully, is demanding accountability for the billions of dollars that are being spent in education. And if we go back and look historically at the amount of money that was spent, and I apologize if I knew we were going to get on this, I should have brought my notes. But roughly, we are spending 4 times the amount of money today that we were spending 40 years ago. And we're certainly not having 4 times the good outcomes from it. That's very loose numbers. I can get more specific. But that's the dilemma we face. So give us specific alternative solutions that we can try to embrace and put into effect.
And I think maybe one thing the legislature could do is talk to the school boards, talk to the superintendents, come up with a group of people who can sit down together and say, this is how we fix this, as you call the train wreck, because that's what we have right now. And there are plenty of smart people out there that know how to do this correctly. And I'll tell you, my school, I don't have very many teachers that I feel like aren't doing a good job. They are working their tails off. And they want to work their tails off, and they want their kids to do better.
And that's true for the overwhelming majority of teachers all
I would
across
say
the
that's
state,
almost
too.
every teacher I've ever met.
Governor Scott's putting together a committee to do that, but I think, as I believe you do, that haste is of the essence. We need to act now. We can't be filling around and studying the problem for another 2 or 3 years.
We cannot. Every year we waste is a year that kids cannot make up.
Exactly.
Do we hear anyone? Very well. Mr. Locke, I wanted to ask you a question myself. I think you partially answered a moment ago. You heard Chair Steiger from the Lake County School District a little while ago, I assume, and she had the resolution from the board that said let's do a 3-year moratorium or reset the whole system to the right set of standards and accountability measures. Do you have an opinion on the Lake County School District's position, that 3 years? Because it seems to me that would be a long time to put everything on pause while we study it, while children are moving through the system.
I think it takes time to figure out the right way to do it. And every time we change standards, and Florida has changed standards a lot, every time we change standards, you throw your teachers into a tailspin because they have to learn a whole new set of standards, they have to learn a whole new curriculum, they have to learn new ways to teach those standards. So to just say, okay, these aren't working, throw them out, let's start over, you're going to throw them into another tailspin. We need to really take our time and figure out the right way to do it, and do it, make sure we do it the right way, we don't do it the fast way. My only issue with the 3-year moratorium is that the kids are still taking all the tests. That doesn't solve the problem with the kids taking the test. And my issue when I sit in my school every day and see kids pulled out to go take a test somewhere is I don't want them taking the test. I want them sitting in the class learning math. I want them sitting in the class learning how to read. I don't want them taking another test. So, and most of the time the teachers will be able to tell you that kid that's going to take that reading test, he's not going to pass it. They know they're not going to pass it before they go. So we're just wasting their time. And so the 3-year moratorium is a good idea if we're going to fix the problem in that 3 years. But we also have to stop taking all that time away from teachers teaching. The one thing that is proven that works is good teachers teaching kids. That works.
Now, Senator Hayes asked you, and I think you answered it, but I want to make sure I heard it correctly, about if we were to pass a bill in 2015 that said Common Core is dead, then what do we go back to? What do we go back to? The next generation sunshine code standards that were in effect before the adoption of Common Core several years back? I mean, how practically can you do that and make it so that children won't lose a year or more?
Well, that's been one of my issues, is that we've changed standards so often that we don't have a group of kids that's gone through 12 years of school on the same standards. Every year something else gets changed. I guess I'm one that would say the standards that we have, there are some things, and a lot of teachers are telling me there are some things in these standards that are not developmentally appropriate, especially at the younger levels, kindergarten through 3rd grade. There are a lot of things in these new standards that aren't developmentally appropriate. Can we fix that? We can fix that. If we had a group of educators and some time, we could look at each standard and say, you know what, this is not going to work for a 5-year-old. Let's fix it so it works for a 5-year-old, and build some new standards. I wouldn't say just throw everything out and start from scratch, because then we're back to, every time you go back to square one, you lose time. And these kids cannot afford to lose any more time.
Okay, well, you provide us with very insightful input, Mr. Locke. I appreciate it very much. And is Mr. Curry still the principal?
Yes, he is.
Give him our best regards, would you please?
I'll let him know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care. Yes. Oh, yes. Senator Hukill, this presenter.
No, I'm a presenter. It's I know people want to film. I don't have objections to filming. This camera is pointed directly on us with a piercing light. It's actually blinding us. So maybe we can move down and angle it, but it's directed right at them and we're looking right at them. So just come down. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Very well. Okay. Thank you for that, Senator Hukill. Okay. Mr. Klatte, President of the Lake County Education Association. Always a pleasure to see you, sir. Welcome. And you're recognized to present.
All right. I want to thank you all for allowing me the time to talk to you. I'm going to be kind of filling in from the teacher's point of view, some of what Mr. Locke talked about. I do want to start off saying the Lake County Healthy Schools legislative initiative that you have and the Lake County School Board's initiatives that they talked about, I do agree with. We know a strong public school system is paramount for our democracy, and it's also one of the few items required in the Florida Constitution. I'm sorry teachers and students can't be here to see democracy in action. They're home or at school teaching your children. Unfortunately, I have to lie. Some of them aren't teaching. Some of them today are giving tests. They're giving a Florida Standards Assessment English and Language Arts field test. But they would rather be teaching. That's our passion, our expertise, and our profession. But we've created a school environment that revolves around testing. Now, these aren't the English and math tests that you remember. These are high stakes. They determine whether a child's promoted or passes a class or has to repeat the grade level. They determine the school grade, the teacher's job security, their pay. In fact, 25 to 30% of the school year is spent testing, not teaching. Roughly, that's about 50 days out of the 180 days is testing, not teaching. Teachers want to teach, students want to learn. In Lake County, about 40% of our teachers are on an annual contract, thanks to Senate Bill 736 from 2011. They will receive letters during Teacher Appreciation Week that says at the end of the school year, you may not even have a job. Now, the reason for this, I understand, is because we want the best teachers in the classroom. We want those that have the highest student achievement. Unfortunately, for those teachers who may not have a job in June, their student achievement scores don't even get sent to the county until October of the next year. Now, you've got to have hiring decisions. Teachers have to be in place in August. So what are those hiring decisions based on? It's obviously not student achievement if the scores aren't even given out until September, October of the next year. We've created this wonderful teacher evaluation plan based on Danielson or Marzano. Under the old system, we knew that 2 to 3% of our teachers probably were not effective. Under this new system that took countless money, hours, time to develop, we found out 2 or 3% of our teachers are not effective. I'm going to leave you with a challenge. We know Lake County Schools at the bottom of the state's funding formula. The challenge is, what will you do to increase that standing for Lake County Schools? We're 65 out of 67 for per student funding. And we know that that's not a place where Lake County likes to be at the bottom. So what are you going to do to help improve that? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Klatte. Appreciate it. Seeing no questions, we will move to the next presenter. Dr. Christy Burns with Lake County Healthy Schools, followed by Ms. Deanna Price. Yes, ma'am, you're recognized. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, as you said, my name is Dr. Christy Burns. I'm a parent and a tax-paying citizen of Lake County. I was born and raised here, and I'm a product of the Lake County school system. I've become a voice in the community because I lead a Facebook group called Lake County Healthy Schools that has about 550 members. Our group recently restored recess to Lake County schools last month, and we made national headlines in the process. Fighting for recess seems completely absurd. We thought every elementary school had recess, but not here in Florida. Why weren't our kids getting recess? Well, that was standardized testing. Standardized testing in Florida is beyond extreme, and we need this to change now. With 1 out of 3 days being testing, how can our children learn when a third of the time is gone? Testing is overriding every innovative, creative, and social aspect of education. There are critical skills for children. These are critical skills for children to learn to become productive citizens. Our children are not getting art, and they are only getting music twice a month. Every other thing they do in school is geared towards increasing test scores. My 8-year-old's test scores and the scores of all the children in school affect every aspect of the Lake County schools. That is an outrageous burden for any child. His test score will decide if he passes 3rd grade. His test score will decide 50% of his teacher's evaluation and if his teacher is retired. My 8-year-old's test score will decide the grade for his entire school, which also is the performance record for his principal. The grades of each school decide the grade for the county. What has happened inadvertently through the legislation is that the pressure on our children starts at the top. At the top is the school board superintendent who pressures the principals to increase the school grades. The principals pressure the teachers to teach the test so that the children will have higher scores, and then the teachers place pressure on the children, and I think this is inadvertent, so that they do not fail 3rd grade, and the teachers can keep their jobs next year. This places immense pressure on our children. Here in Lake County, older children are completely overstressed. In elementary, we have kids having anxiety attacks during tests. ADHD kids are being over-medicated to deal with the climate in the schools, and then they're acting out afterwards. Special needs children are shutting down or running laps in their backyards after school. Our youngest children are like canaries in the coal mine. They are showing us the first signs of the damage of this toxic testing situation. Here in Lake County, we have formed a bipartisan coalition of parents and concerned citizens. We have a core group that would like to meet with each of you to help get educational legislation passed this year that will change the testing structure in the state. In the packet that I provided you, we have specified 4 points of legislation that we think would help fix this problem. You will hear from others in this coalition who will discuss different educational aspects. Please understand that we are all working together to allow children to obtain the high-quality public education which is every child's right under the Florida State Constitution. My child's educational future is in jeopardy. This toxic testing is destroying his education. We are asking for your help now, not 1 more year. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Burns, thank you very much for your input. Are there any questions, members? Okay, thank you so much. We have other folks from your organization that are going to be presenting as well. Oh, yes, represent Sullivan, sure.
Thank you for being here today. My question would be in regards to the testing. We've heard a lot about that today. Do you attribute it specifically just to Common Core? Do you believe that there was already, would you say before that was implemented, there was already too much testing and then this was added on top of that, making it even more? What point of reference would you go back to in regards to where you don't believe there was
My
testing?
understanding is it goes back to Senate Bill 736, and then Common Core had to go on top of it and reinforced the problem that was already there. I also have you were asking for the testing schedule. I have it if you would like that.
If you would pass that out, we appreciate that. Do you have extra copies with you?
Yes, I have.
Jennifer can take them and give it to us. Thank you, Dr. Burns.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Ms. Deanna Price, followed by Dr. Mark Carlson, also with Lake County Healthy Schools. Ms. Van Buren, who has Ms. Price. Good
Thank
afternoon.
you for hearing us today. I am Deanna Price, resident of Leesburg, taxpayer and mother of a first-grade student in the Lake County school system. I'm here today because the excessive use of standardized and high-stakes testing has eroded the quality system of public education promised to my child and every other child by Section 1 of the Florida Constitution. To remediate this situation, we the people need the legislature of the state of Florida to amend the Florida statutes in the following manner. Use only one nationally benchmarked standardized test each year to assess students. This nationally benchmarked standardized test should replace all statewide assessment programs, end-of-course exams, and county benchmark tests. This would give our teachers back the precious instructional time they have lost in preparing for, administering, and evaluating the results of these many, many tests. It would allow our children to focus on receiving a high-quality education, not just a high test score. 2, remove the use of high-stakes tests for grades 3 and 10 promotion. Use only student GPAs and first-hand teacher knowledge to determine whether a child moves on to the next grade. A few hours spent taking a test on one day should not determine whether or not an otherwise capable child should be promoted or not. Tests are not one size fits all. And as our children's level of intelligence should not be determined by a single test, nor should our teachers be evaluated by a single test. Which brings me to number 3. Instructional personnel and administrator performance evaluations should not be based on value-added measurement, VAM, scores, given that the American Statistical Association has sharply discredited their use for this purpose. And finally, please support the fundamental right of the parent as granted by the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to opt out of every mandated assessment, including end-of-course exams, and utilize teacher-derived measurements of student success. The fact is that because of the excessive use of standardized and high-stakes testing, our children's level of education is being compromised. We are creating a generation of test takers where the only thing that matters is how high they can score. Democracy goes out the window when critical thinking is no longer a priority. Our children deserve better. We cannot stand for this, not one more year.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Appreciate it. Dr. Carlson, followed by Lori Baxel. Dr. Carlson, good afternoon.
Hi. My name is Dr. Carlson, Mark Carlson. I have a PhD in computer science and computational physics from Georgia Tech. I'm here to talk about the electronic testing, and then I want to explain some financial numbers pertaining to all Florida State K-12 testing. My first point, electronic testing. It's a solid point, but fairly easy to explain, and it hinges on the difference between using tests for gathering metrics on student assessment versus testing for accountability of teachers, principals, and schools. Electronic testing is mandated by the Common Core. The reasoning behind the electronic aspect of the test is to gather valid metrics on the best practices can be found and used by all states. Without valid metrics, there's no reason for the electronic testing. One of the problems with Florida's electronic testing is that it is being used to not just measure student performance and gather metrics, but for school grading and accountability. Using test in that manner makes all metrics useless because the tests are no longer unbiased. The school principals and teachers have a reason to want the kids to pass that goes far beyond the passion for teaching and enters the realm of self-preservation. This bias not only makes any metrics gathered useless, it also puts unhealthy pressure on the students down to the elementary level. Hey, Johnny, do good on the test, and the teacher, your life's not going to be there next year. It may not be stated that blatantly, but the specter is always there. Okay, so my next point is numbers. The fiscal numbers for implementing and executing standardized tests in Florida. I want to establish a baseline, so I'm going to use the federal HART test estimated cost in May 2014, which is the federal Common Core standard. I think there's 35 states that are using it, I'm not sure. Somewhere on there. That's $24 per student, and according to the DOE, the hardware needed to take these tests is about 30 computers per school, which if you take a high retail price per computer is about $19 per student. So what does Florida pay? In fiscal year 13 and 14, the FPAT costs about $38 per student. And according to the FSBA, the new FSA test, which replaces the FPAT, Florida will cost $220 million over 6 years to make the test for AIR to make the tests. And then it costs about $25 per student to execute with additional unknown costs to help administer the tests. That's $62 per student, ignoring the unknown. However, Florida is also implementing the EOC tests, and these are just toxic. These are not mandated by Common Core. They are given as a guide to accountability and school improvement. The FSBA estimates that the EOC will cost about $557 per student for the first year. That's $1.5 billion taken from the education and put into unnecessary testing and crippling school systems. Here's my little chart. We have the federal standard, the FCATs that we used to use before Common Core, and the FSA, which is what we're replacing it with now. It's still more expensive. The EOCs, which are completely not necessary, are taking so much money out and adding so much bad stuff to the education system. So we need to get rid of it. Thank you.
Dr. Carlson, thank you very much. Any questions, members? Okay. We'll move to Ms. Lori Baxley, Lake County Against Common Core. Ms. Baxley, you're recognized. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm a member of a group of 800 Lake County residents who have come together in the short time span of 3 months. We come from all backgrounds, all political beliefs. In a time when this country is so bitterly divided, it is shocking to see a unifying cause. We have united to call on Florida to abandon the Race to the Top grant and all the federal requirements put upon it. First, the standards. The Florida standards, aka Common Core, are the most glaring problem at this point because they are the first phase. 500 early childhood health professionals have proclaimed that the elementary standards are developmentally inappropriate, and they've been proven right. We parents of elementary schoolers are living their predictions of loss of confidence, depression, and confusion. When we jump to the middle and high school standards, they're not rigorous enough. One of the authors of the standards, Jason Zinga, has admitted they will not prepare students who plan on STEM careers, let alone a 4-year university. This is madness. The standards were adopted sight unseen. Bill Gates himself has stated we won't know if this education stuff works for at least a decade. Florida's children are not guinea pigs. This generation of students will be forever impacted by an untested, unproven experiment. Florida is better than that. We must reject these standards and employ the best standards in the nation with proven results. Those would be California, Indiana, DC, or Massachusetts, all 10 years worth of proven results. The testing mandated by this grant is not only absurd, it is abusive. The results of these tests in Utah and New York speak for themselves. Testing company that DOE has hired for Florida is the world's largest behavioral and social science research organization. When did grades not matter? We should revert back to the nationally normed tests, the tried and true, the Iowa, the Stanford, or the California achievement. As Republicans, we stand for local control, small government, and states' rights. This grant has taken it all away. The Republican Executive Committee of Lake County petitioned the legislature last year to withdraw from Common Core, as did the Republican Legislative Affairs Committee for the entire state of Florida. The choice is clear. We must follow in Oklahoma and Louisiana's footsteps and get out. Our children do not get these years back. So we say not one more year. Not one more year of debating, not one more year of testing, not one more year stolen from our children. Thank you.
Thank you. But I'll see if they do first. Okay. Seeing none. You mentioned 4 states early on in your presentation. Yes. California, Indiana. I didn't get the other 2.
DC and Massachusetts. And in the packet that I gave you, there is reviews of all 4 of those standards from the Fordham Institute. The Fordham Institute was hired by proponents of Common Core to compare the core standards to every state standards that were there prior to. These 4 states were higher than the Common Core standards. And again, we were talking about, Mr. Locke, you had asked him about standards and proven. Massachusetts and California have been around for 10 years. They are proven.
So to sort of bring it to a solution, I know you said not one more year on Common Core, and again, a Common Core repealer bill, to prepare such a bill is not a difficult task to draft it, but then what happens if it passes, and what do you go back to with children in the system right now? If you said we'll go back to the Next Generation Sunshine State Standards that existed in 2008 timeframe or something like that, then all the textbooks that were then in use are probably not available now. And there's just logistical concerns. So I'm trying to get to the solution that you're advocating for. And you mentioned these 4 states, I think, in a positive light, that their standards are superior to the Common Core. So is it your position then that we should abandon Common Core and adopt the standards in one of these other states?
That is my position.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me. Appreciate that. Any other questions, members of that? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bexley. Next, we'll hear from Jane Irwin, Lake County Against Common Core, followed by Christine Magnifico, who's also listed as a constituent here. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Irwin, you're recognized. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today to speak out against the absolute train wreck that is FSA or Common Core, or whatever Commissioner Pam Stewart wants to call this educational nightmare. I'm an educator, but because it is all too clear in the past that our requests and our opinions do not matter to the local school boards and Tallahassee, that's not my role here today. I'm here as an infuriated mother of elementary school children who is demanding to know how this can be fixed. Here are my suggestions of where we need to begin. The standards are completely developmentally inappropriate for K through 5. They are fast-forming skill mastery to unacceptable levels. Forced learning is not natural, it is not lasting, and it is certainly not authentic. Scaffolding is nearly non-existent with the current blueprints or maps. There's hardly any logic to the sequence of learning, which the kids are struggling to master because none of it makes any sense. The math curriculum is convoluted and inefficient and appears to be designed for children to fail. And if that is the plan, congratulations, because that's exactly what they're doing. There must be a resolution put forth to end the toxic testing system that has become prevalent. To test, blame, and punish is a despicable way to treat children, and it is a disgraceful waste of time, time, energy, and taxpayer dollars. It's shameful that our kids no longer get a well-rounded education that includes the arts on a regular basis in order to pay for those tests. Not to mention the stress, the anxiety, and the classroom time that is lost for real, authentic learning. There is an appalling lack of quality learning materials. My kids come home with worksheet after worthless worksheet. These kids are frittering away their days doing glorified busy work that is often riddled with typographical, grammatical errors, and factual inaccuracies. So, what have I talked about today? My descriptors: train wreck, a nightmare, inappropriate, disgraceful, shameful, appalling, worthless. Is that what we want in our education system? I can tell you as parents, we do not. We are angry, and we are not going to go away. We will do all that we can to promote the rejection of these standards and this curriculum and the refusal of this toxic testing. When we refuse these tests as parents, we're not asking permission to do We're just informing you and giving you the courtesy of letting you know, and that we are very well aware of what the 14th Amendment guarantees us parents when it comes to the education of our children. We continue to wait for Florida to stand up for our kids. We need to stand up to Arnie Duncan. We need to stand up to Bill Gates. We need to stand up to David Coleman. We don't care what he thinks that our American kids need to learn. Not even a little bit. Thank you.
Ms. Irwin?
Yes.
It's a very simple question, Ms. Irwin.
Yes, sir.
Would you please find the time and make a way to get to Tallahassee? And I'm serious as a heart attack. And convey that same message with that same fervor to every educational committee in the Senate and in the House.
I would love to.
They need to hear your message. Thank you very much for
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Next, we'll hear from Christine Magnifico, followed by Tina Neese. Ms. Magnifico, did I pronounce it correctly?
Thank you very much. I too am a product of Lake County. I was born in Orlando, raised in Lake County my whole entire life. I am a proud product of the Lake County school system. I feel like I got a quality education from the school system here in Lake County. I feel my children are not. I would ask you, Mr. Metz, I understand you're a business owner. How many of you, as either business owners, as people, someone walked up to you on the street, Mr. Metz, if someone walked into your office and said, we have got a product for you. It is going to revolutionize your accountability and your efficiency in your office. It is going to, we will give you money. We will give you $10,000 to use our product, but you can't see it. Can't look at it, can't know what's in it. Will you take our product today?
No, I would not.
Well, that's exactly what the federal government did with Race to the Top. They took these standards sight unseen, they gave it to our children and to our educators without knowing what was in it because there was dollars attached to it. If you wouldn't do it as a person, why should our children have to be subjected to that type of mentality on a day-to-day basis? That's exactly what's happening in our education today. Representative Stuyvesant came in and asked for a 3-year reprieve. Districts and counties across the state are asking for a 1 to 3 year reprieve so that their teachers, their administrators, their county dollars are not tied to these tests, which they have now started to implement and have figured out that they are completely inappropriate, rigorous, and cannot be done effectively. I appreciate the fact that they want those reprieves. Where are the reprieves for my kids? My children go to work because school is their job. That's what I teach them. I teach them from a young age. I go to work to pay my bills. You go to school to get an education. That's your job. Where is their reprieve? Without your help in the legislation in this coming year, they will get no reprieve. They will get no help. They will be forced to continue to be tested. They will be forced to continue to be ill-prepared for the rigors of life. And that burden then falls on me. I'm their mother, that's my job. I'm okay with that. But I pay my taxes for them to get a quality education in this county, the education that I received in this county. And it's not happening. Day in and day out, it's not happening. These scores are ridiculous. It's been proven in other states it's not working. We as Florida should be making a namesake for ourselves and saying we should be the state that does it and shows the other states how to do it. You all have that challenge in front of you, and I implore you to find a way to make it happen. There are a lot of people in this room, myself included. I've spoken with Governor Scott. Mr. Hayes, you talked about the commission that he's forming. I've asked him to personally be on that commission. But my kid will not do better with us waiting for 3 years for us to test something out. They can't take that risk. I implore you to find a way to help them. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Magnifico.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any questions? Now we'll hear from Tina Neese, followed by Carolyn Van Dyken. Ms. Neese, you're recognized. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of Lake County Delegation. My name is Tina Neese. I'm a business owner, a wife, and a mother of 2 children, very concerned about education here in Florida. The
The Common Core standards were not substantially changed as amended by Commissioner Stewart, Speaker Weatherford, and Governor Bush. They were rebranded as the Florida standards and are academically inferior, developmentally inappropriate, and psychologically manipulative. They must be repealed and replaced, preferably by district determined, but at least by truly state-developed standards, or by one of the best pre-Common Core state standards in the nation, as previously suggested in Massachusetts, California. The Obama administration, just before Thanksgiving, released their new regulatory plans that will include phasing out the authority of the states over alternative testing for special education students and continuing with the illegal and unconstitutional NCLB waivers that are arbitrarily enforced as Florida is seen in the realm of English language learners. The state and federal mandated tests and those given to prepare for the state mandated high-stakes test are consuming 30 to 50% of class teaching time. The results are often not available to teachers and parents, and the main state tests do not come back until after the school year is over. They are destroying the art of teaching and resulting in a narrowing of the school year, and a narrowing of curriculum and loss of recess, extracurricular activities, and family time. They are invasive, acting as a conduit of highly personal student and family data and a psychological profiling tool for schools, government, and corporations. The psychosocial emphasis has been admitted by just about every major testing company, including the American Institutes of Research, the developer of the Florida's new state test. They are, and required IT infrastructure are also very expensive, straining the budgets of school districts and counties. In fact, instead of talking about academic testing, AIR touts itself as one of the world's largest behavioral and social science testing organizations. They admit that Common Core is a national curriculum, promote controversial social issues, and admit to data mining individual Florida student and teachers for psychosocial data experiments. For all of these reasons and more, the contract with AIR needs to be canceled, and there needs to be a strict ban with penalties on psychological teaching, testing, and data collection. The right of parents to opt their children out of these invasive, unhelpful tests must be affirmed. Many parents are going to opt out of testing anyway, and I'm sure it will not be a pretty sight in many school districts, but nonetheless it will happen. So we are respectfully requesting this board to pass legislation that will make this process non-burdensome for our children. And I end with this statement: please, not one more year. Thank you.
Ms. Lees, thank you very much. Next is Carolyn Van Dyken, followed by Brian Hopper. Van Dyken, your recommendation.
Hi, I'm a parent of a 9-year-old who's currently in 4th grade. My husband and I have been involved with our son's education since day one. This year we've noticed a change. We've gone from hands-on lengthy studies about Florida history, science, and literature to teaching a subject in 5 days, watching videos of other students doing hands-on demonstration, and testing to see what the child has retained. Ironically, I've heard supporters of Common Core speak about how these standards will bridge the learning gap between students, and what I'm witnessing is just the opposite. For example, on a 4th grade math test, my child struggled to make an 80B. Math is a strong subject. The online Skyward account showed an average grade for that test in his class was 58. The gap is growing between those who can and those who can't, and we're only 14 weeks into the school year. I want higher standards. I do not have a problem learning a concept several different ways. What speaks to one student might not speak to another. I do have a problem with the test that was written to trick a child or is counted as wrong, even with the correct outcome, because they didn't do it the Common Core way. I'm disappointed with my local government not standing out against Common Core, but attempting to protect themselves from the outcomes of the Florida assessment grades, and not protecting the students who are subject to these tests. I'm disappointed with my state government accepting grant money and spending taxpayer dollars to hire private companies that only stand to profit off my child's information, not to educate him. I thought most of you believed in smaller government and more local control as I do, so I'm very confused on why you handed over Florida's education system to the federal government. You accepted and adopted standards that were written behind closed doors without the help of those who actually teach. You adopted standards in some cases that are lower than what Florida already had in place. Each state should be in charge of their own education. Bring control back to the local level. Stop letting the federal government walk all over the state of Florida and our children. If we want Florida to be great, then it starts with us, not Washington, D.C. We, the people of Florida, need to get to work and adopt proven higher standards that are developmentally appropriate. We need to adopt math and ELA standards like those from California, Indiana, and Massachusetts. I know from personal experience that my child, who is an AB honor roll since first grade, who can read books that are above his grade level and loves to do math just for fun, scored a 2 on the reading portion of FCAT and 3 on the math. These scores in no way reflect my child's ability. Standardized testing falls way short of providing us with correct data about Florida's students. We need to reduce the frequency of standardized tests so that it does not play such a huge role in our schools. This will allow our teachers to teach and inspire and not teach to the test. Use performance-based assessments that would provide data about what the student can actually do. I urge you to repeal Common Core, replace with proven, developmentally appropriate standards, and reduce standardized testing. Not one more year.
Thank you, Ms. Dyckman. Next up is Brian Hoffer. Mr. Hoffer, good afternoon.
Excuse me, good afternoon. Hofer.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm Brian Hofer. I'm a husband, and I'm a parent of 2 children, 11 and 9. I'm a banker of 30 years, and I'm a graduate of Stetson University. I'm also a new student of the Florida Standards Common Core curriculum. As a student, I see the increased workload. I also see a rapid-paced learning process and a heightened awareness of meeting performance standards. Inside, I wonder, does this fast-paced and pressure-packed system teach my children any more effectively? Or is the result that we meet someone's political agenda, and the net result is that our children are not educated any more effectively, but with an added problem, our children's self-esteem is destroyed? As a student, I also have a few questions. One, what type of study was done on the Common Core curriculum before it was chosen as the program to make our children globally competitive? Are there documented results of its improved level of quality of education that it will provide? If there was a study done, who did it? Was it objectively done? Number 2, Common Core advocates increased global competitiveness by preparing our children for a college education. So I have a Common Core question. Our economy has transitioned into its own new set of standards. Lower national salaries with higher underreported inflation. How will Common Core equip our children to repay student loans that average $125,000 when our national salaries are decreasing? As a new student of Common Core, I also have some perspective. One, I've heard that Common Core is the brainchild of Bill Gates. He strategically offered school boards around the country money from his foundation if they would endorse and implement his core curriculum. I have to say, this is great modeling for my children and I of entitlement at its best. Give us money and we will be your chosen slaves. Number 2, to me, Common Core appears to be a political tool to advance a power group's agenda. Our children are the lab rats that are being used for this experiment. I'm here to tell you, our children are not lab rats, and we can't take one more year of this unproven experiment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hofer. Senator Hayes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and from you, school teachers in the audience and administrators, please correct me if my perception is incorrect. But I think that while no one has mentioned it here today, we are engaged in the destruction of our talent pool in education. No teacher that I know of is going to want to continue to teach under these kind of trying circumstances.
They're flocking now.
That's
They're
right.
leaving,
They're
the
leaving
system
like
in
crazy.
droves. They're already doing it. They're
That's
done.
right. I
They're
understand
done.
that. That's my point.
Yep.
Is they're leaving like rats off a sinking ship.
Yep.
And they're quality teachers. They have the intellect and the ability to move into the business world and make far more money than they're making as teachers under far less trying circumstances. And not only that, but we're poisoning the well. How many high school students do you know that are experiencing this train wreck and hearing all this stuff and seeing it firsthand are going to want to go to college to become a teacher? It's not going to happen. This is a mess, and we need to stop it right now.
Thank you, Senator Hayes, for your insightful comments, as always. Appreciate that. And members, we're at a point in the agenda where we've concluded the presentations on education issues, and we're going to be moving into the healthcare segment of the presentations. I would like to declare a recess of about, say, 15 minutes or so. You can be seated here in your chairs, say even by 3:10. That would actually be like 18 minutes. And then we'll begin and we'll run through the rest of our agenda. And meanwhile, members of the public, if you haven't turned in your public appearance record, it's still not too late to do so. They're out on the table there. The sheets can be filled out and turned in by district aide. Yeah, I have my notes. We have a schedule where we're supposed to be leaving the room right after 5 o'clock. So I want to keep everything going here, because there's another event here tonight in this room. So we're going to hear from, we're going to go, that wasn't the event that I was aware of, but in that case we can all stay. We're going to move into the healthcare topics now. Again, I mentioned Jennifer Wiley, my district aide. We put the book together and did so topically so we could stay focused in one policy area at a time. We're now in healthcare. So we're going to hear first from Donald G. Henderson, the President and CEO of the Central Florida Health Alliance, followed by Jonathan Cherry, President and CEO of Extreme Behavioral Center. Mr. Henderson, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Representative Metz, and thank you everybody for hearing me out this afternoon. I'm Don Henderson from Central Florida Health Alliance, and today I'm wearing the hat of the Health Policy Chair for the Lake Legislative Days, the Chamber Alliance for 2015. And also, I wanted to mention that I was recently elected to the board of the Florida Hospital Association, and I'm also now the Health Policy Chairperson for the Florida Hospital Association Board, so whatever that's worth.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm referring to the document, the executive summary document that's in front of you, the one that has the colorful Lake Legislative Days logo, and I just wanted to hit some items, and I'm sure that Mr. Cherry will follow up on and do a great job too. Right now, as you know, we've talked with some of your offices individually, but as you know, there's about 47,000 uninsured residents in Lake County at the moment. And it's a very difficult situation. Many of these folks are working poor in that they work different types of low-income jobs. Their employer does not provide health insurance. And there is an opportunity this year for the legislature to extend some coverage to them under the state's programs. The Hospital Association has come up with their nomenclature for this, which is the Healthy Florida Works. And they've tried to set it up in such a way that it might be more desirable for the legislature to consider this year. The key points are that this is not a state program as far as being run by state bureaucracy. It's being run by private insurance companies, and the state has already moved the Medicaid program into managed care, and that there are four, in the Lake County area, there are 4 private companies that provide Medicaid coverage for all the recipients, and what this would do would extend the program to those up to 138% of the federal poverty level. The new change on it versus last year when I was here before you talking about similar issues is that this time around we've tried to adopt some of the parts of the expansion that are acceptable to Republican legislatures all throughout the country. There's a requirement that there's a work requirement this time around that head of households will at least have to work 20 hours a week in order to qualify for coverage. There is also a requirement for the individuals who are going to get this benefit to contribute between $5 and $25 a month to their coverage, so that there is some participation, and that money goes into a healthcare savings account. Under this new plan, we estimate that in Lake County, about a third of the currently uninsured residents will get coverage. So this is not a panacea or a complete solution to the uninsured issue, but it is a step in the right direction. We also estimate that there would be a secondary impact from a reputable source that it would be the creation of over 1,500 new jobs in the county as we expand healthcare to take care of them. I've got a couple more points which I think are pretty important to mention. The low-income pool program is also under attack this year. I don't know if you know that the low-income, which is called LIP, provides many support services for healthcare, including support for the Lake County Health Department. And I don't know if there's anybody here from the health department to speak to this, but it is going to decimate the county's clinics. There are 6 low-income clinics in the county, and without that LIP funding, they will be gone, and it will have a significant impact. I'm going to skip the part about certificate of need because I'm going to come see you all in Tallahassee. We can talk about certificate of need when the time comes, but anyway, I'll stop at that point and see if there are any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Very well. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Henderson, for your presentation. Appreciate it. Mr. Cherry, you're next up, and then we'll hear from Lynn Kenyak after that.
Mr. Chairman, delegation, members, hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving. I did. I'm John Cherry, CEO of Life Stream Behavioral Center. Thank you for your previous support for LifeStream and its comprehensive array of community-based care. LifeStream is a nonprofit specialty healthcare provider offering a broad range of inpatient, residential, and outpatient services to individuals with a primary diagnosis of mental illness or substance use disorder. We are strategically located in 15 different service locations in Lake and Sumter counties. The need for our services has grown with the rapid increase of population in Lake and Sumter counties over the past 15 years, while the number of residents has risen by 55%. During that period, and the cost of providing services has risen by about 45%. Funding for core services provided by us and other providers has not increased. This has resulted in compression of the services available to treat severely ill individuals who, without cost-effective community treatment, will end up utilizing more expensive inpatient and jail services. In addition, the unintended consequences of the implementation by DCF of the managing entities and by ACA of Medicaid managed care plans have reduced reimbursement for treatment services for children and adults by approximately $2 million over the last 2 years. This has resulted in operating losses at LifeStream, which will translate into further elimination of cost-effective outpatient and residential services. LifeStream and our peer agencies across the state ask that the legislature assure that Medicaid rates for outpatient services, which currently cover 60% of the cost of providing care, be adjusted to cover the cost of essential care to those that we serve with diagnoses of mental illness. We also request consideration of a LifeStream specific project which would benefit the state and nonviolent individuals who are suffering from mental illness and involved in our judicial and correctional systems. You have an executive summary of that project for your packet. The Forensic Florida Assertive Community Treatment Team will be a mobile, community-based team which will operate 24/7. The most important goal of a Forensic Act team is to prevent rearrest and incarceration while delivering intensive treatment services to a population with severe mental disorders. The program will be very cost-effective, with substantial savings accruing to the state by the reduction of hospital stays and days of incarceration. Again, thank you for your support of LifeStream and consideration of our request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, Lynn Kenyak is the Health Promotions Manager of the American Lung Association, and followed by Phil Scarpelli, past president of Central Healthy Start. Mr. Kenyak.
No woman. Lynn asked me to address you in her place today.
I'm sorry.
My name is Ira Nolman, and I am a volunteer with the American Lung Association of Florida. Thank you for allowing me to share information on issues of importance to the Lung Association during the 2015 legislative session. I'm here on behalf of the 2 million Floridians who suffer from lung diseases, such as lung cancer, COPD, and asthma. The American Lung Association is the leading organization in the state working to save lives by improving lung health and preventing lung disease. Lung disease and breathing problems are the primary cause of infant deaths, and asthma is the leading cause of school absenteeism in the nation. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death from cancer. It accounts for more deaths than breast, prostate, colon, liver, and kidney cancers combined. It is responsible for 1 out of every 4 people who die from cancer each year. You were provided with a copy of our 2015 advocacy agenda, and I would like to highlight some of the issues that may come before you in the 2015 session. At more than 440,000 deaths each year, tobacco use is still the leading cause of preventable deaths in the United States. In Florida, nearly 29,000 deaths are attributed annually to tobacco use. We want to thank you for your continued support of Florida's Tobacco Use Prevention and Control Program. This program, Tobacco Free Florida, is the result of voters overwhelmingly approving the 2006 Citizen Initiative to annually fund a comprehensive statewide tobacco education and prevention program. It has been funded with 15% of the tobacco settlement money. The program is required and follows the CDC best practices for comprehensive tobacco control programs. We ask that you require that all intervention and evaluation components be competitively procured. A competitive and open bid procurement process helps to ensure the program is designed with interventions that will deliver the greatest impact. Studies have shown that for every dollar spent on helping Medicaid recipients and state employees quit smoking, Florida could see a return of $1.24 per individual. To put this issue in perspective, it is estimated that each year smoking costs our state $19.6 billion in direct medical costs, along with premature deaths and lost productivity. We know what works. Providing FDA-approved medications and counseling greatly increases the chances of a tobacco user quitting for good. We urge you to make sure Medicaid and the state employees' health insurance programs include comprehensive tobacco cessation treatment as a covered benefit. The American Lung Association has a long history of fighting for smoke-free environments. Unfortunately, Florida's Clean Indoor Air Act prevents local governments from enacting additional measures to protect their residents, children, and visitors from being exposed to others' tobacco use. We ask your support of local governments who would like to further restrict public places where people can smoke. Research is vital to finding better treatments and cures for lung disease. We ask that you increase the funding levels of the James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program and the Bankhead Cooley Cancer Research Program. These programs have a demonstrated return on investment and help provide hope for those suffering from lung cancer and other tobacco-related diseases. Lastly, we ask that you do what you can to protect the air we breathe. Florida has areas where its residents and visitors are breathing unhealthy levels of ozone, fine particles, and other toxic substances. Unhealthy air will cause people to be sick to the point of hospitalization and death. Children will miss school, adults will miss work. Help us in our fight for healthy air and healthy lungs. In conclusion, I would like to offer the Lung Association as a resource and encourage you to call us at 1-800-LUNG-USA for information to provide expert testimonies on any of the issues outlined here today. Thank you for your support and for your consideration.
Sir, I wanted to get your name for the record.
It's Ira Nobleman.
Nobleman?
Nobleman, N-O-B-E-L-M-A-N. I for letter sheet.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your input today, sir. Next up is Mr. Phil Scarpelli, past president of Central Health Eats.
Good afternoon. I'd first like to wish you all sincerely a happy, healthy holiday. And thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you on a matter that's very, very near and dear to me personally and professionally. I've worked on a number of committees and foundations and organizational impact issues within this great county of ours for many, many years. Here's one that is near and dear to me. As the current past president of the Healthy Start Coalition here in Lake County, I've been involved for over 7 years. We work with an extremely talented and committed group of young people who are working within our communities on the very issue of deterring the preterm rate of early child births. Premature and low birth weights here in Florida, from statistics from 2013, show that over 30,000 babies were born premature. I don't probably have to explain to you in greater detail the consequences of premature births and low birth weights. There is so much statistics that are resounding that talk about the social, emotional, educational, and physical delays in development that really impact a child, not only the child and family, but communities, not only on grander scales of cost and finance, but it doesn't help children reach their potential. I am also the son of 2 pediatricians who are no longer with us on this planet, but they have taught me many, many years about research and intervention in prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal care of both mom and child, and what is remarkable that can be done to alter that if we take a serious focus. If you think about all the social welfare issues presented to you today, starting children early in life with a healthy record is really a great investment. Florida's Association of Healthy Start Coalition has been successfully impacting the lives of both mother and child throughout Central Florida and specifically the county for years. They continue to build professional relationships with our local obstetricians and gynecologists and provide screenings for at-risk mothers and offer a variety of valuable services and coordination throughout the mother's pregnancy and thereafter. In fact, pregnant moms who receive these very services are 30% less likely to have preterm or low birth weight infants. Think about that investment. If there was anything we are, as a society, should invest in, it's the mission of our Healthy Start programs, giving our unborn and newborn babies a healthy start for a prosperous future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move to the next presenter. Thank you, Mr. Scarpelli. Catherine Williamson, followed by Peggy Cox and Michael Perry for the Lake County Water Authority. Good afternoon, you're recognized.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for you spending your time. Clearly, we see all of the issues. We see so many of the issues that you all deal with. We don't envy your jobs. I'm here today to speak about what Florida's failure to expand Medicaid coverage means. First of all, there's the economic area, and that's very important. It means the loss of $51.3 billion of already paid federal tax dollars. Now, I know our state legislatures had feared that we would be dealing with an out-of-control state Medicaid budget, but we also know that our Medicaid budget expanded so much due to the recession. Our 2014-2015 budget has been reduced, the budget projection has been reduced because of some recovery from the recession. So our situation's a little bit different now. Of course, there's an economic impact for each of us. We paid those taxes, that's part of it. That's the first time I pay. The second time I pay, along with every individual who buys health insurance or every employer who buys health insurance, is we pay higher for our health insurance because of the number of uninsured people. Our healthcare facilities all need to come out ahead. They can't go out of business. We need them. We don't want them to go out of business, but they need to recover their investment in the people who can't pay for their medical care. So we all pay for that. The third way that most of us in Lake County pay for this is through our Lake County special hospital district tax. Many counties don't do this. I think there's only a couple in the whole state that do. But I know that I pay $175 extra a year to live in Lake County because of the number of uninsured. And I don't begrudge that, but there are alternatives. Other states have figured out how to work with Medicaid expansion on their own terms. Not necessarily saying we're going to do it exactly as we think the federal government thinks us to do it, but work out something that's creative, something like we heard a little bit earlier today. Of course, there's the another economic area, that if we had this expansion, if we were really offering medical care to people through providing Medicaid insurance to those people, we would have tens of thousands of new jobs in the state of Florida. And of course, the biggest impact to Florida families who work hard but are still just an illness away from bankruptcy. This is something that people deal with all the time, so it's a big financial impact, it's a big emotional impact. On top of that, of course, there are people who don't have insurance, and even those of us who are insured, who pay for our insurance but avoid medical care at all costs, that people get sicker. People miss work, people have harder lives, and we can't even count the impact of that. So this year, I know this is something you think about every year. This year, I'd like you to think again in a positive way of how can we accomplish this for people of Florida. Thank you.
Please, and thank you very much. I think that concludes the healthcare topics, members, and we're going to move to the water issues now. And the first presenter will be from the Lake County Water Authority. We have Peggy Cox and Michael Perry listed. Mr. Perry, good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Chairman Cox was unavoidably detained and sends her respects, and certainly appreciates the opportunity. She sent me to brief you on a couple of quick things. One, it's probably not any sort of surprise that it's been dry for quite some time. And up till this year, we were actually, it had been since 2005, since we were even anywhere close to average rainfall. And because of that, there were significant reductions in lake levels. The Claremont chain and the Harris chain were probably poster children for low lake levels up through that period, particularly the South Lake County and the Claremont chain. We, up through October of this year, we were still at only at 98% of average rainfall. So even through October, we were still low. And the Claremont chain, even though we had received just about average rainfall, the Claremont chain actually recovered about 2.5 feet this year because of average rainfall. Then came the rain that we got a couple weeks ago, a week and a half or so ago in November, about 6 inches countywide, brought us up to over 100%, about 110% of average rainfall. And the lakes have now, the Claremont chain has now recovered 2.75 feet. So it's a significant improvement. We kept saying when the rains returned, the lake levels will return, and sure enough they did. We did, however, do some work in South Lake County to try to make some improvements to the connection or reconnect some flow through some wetlands in the Little Creek Basin that drains to the Claremont chain. And it seems that whatever the last thing you did before the drought started caused it, and the last thing you did before the rains came back fixed it. I'd like to take credit for the fact that we put water back in the Claremont chain, but it's really mostly about rainfall. There are some other areas, though, that we've noticed that probably could stand some attention to try to make some connections or reconnect some of those wetlands to prevent any misdirection of flow. So we'll be working with the county and other entities to work on that through the year. But just so your constituents know that that this year we finally got average rainfall, and it's that average or better, and it's that average rainfall that really has helped the lakes to recover substantially. The Harris Chain of Lakes is still, particularly in Lake Apopka though, is still about a foot below the regulatory schedule. We could use some more rain to fill up Lake Apopka. The super pond, Harris, Dora, Eustis, is at regulatory now. Lake Griffin's slightly below regulatory. So we'd still like to see the lakes up another, the Claremont chain another foot, and likewise with the Harris chain. We are looking forward to continuing the work that Senator Hayes has started on Lake Apopka, anything that we can do to help and be a part of that. His leadership and your leadership, particularly Senator Hayes' leadership related to restoration of Lake Apopka has been significant and effective, and we look forward to being a part of that as well. There is one other issue that Representative Sullivan, I'd like to maybe spend some time with you and your staff. It's an annexation issue that it's a long story, and it's better we do it at a separate time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay, very well. Thank you, Mr. Kirk.
I do have a quick question. Not about that, but about something else. For instance, with the Lake County legislative positions, I saw they have one under government, that's phase 3 of the South Lake Regional Water Initiative, but that's all there is in relation to water. Is there a legislative agenda the County Water Authority that I didn't see, or maybe I looked over, and I saw the report, but is there a specific legislative agenda?
Not yet, and I think that's what the discussion we have to have separately would be about.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perry. Skip Garner, Chairman of the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council. Mr. Garner, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak collectively to this legislative delegation. I look forward to, in the next few weeks, meeting with each of you individually, talk a little bit more about some of the issues that we have on the Harris Chain. First of all, I'd like to do a little housekeeping. You know, you should have a copy of the legislative report.
I'll give it. That's the one.
Okay, is everyone?
Oh, there it is. Looking to put sheets covered up. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, and if you turn to page 1, there you see the statutory authority for the Hurricane Council. It's our legislation. And the housekeeping that we're recommending here is, if you look at the section of the legislation, it states that it addresses the composition of the council. You know, it's very specific in the membership of the council, the appointments of the council, and their qualifications. It rigidly prescribes the composition of the council and does not address council members' resignation, removal, or meeting attendance requirements. And this has, over the years, we were created in 2001, and this over the years has created a little bit of a problem. We have a couple members that have not resigned, and because of there's no provision in our legislation to remove them. They still remain on the roster, and yet they're really not contributing. So we need something in our legislation. I'd be happy to talk to you individually or after this meeting sometime to see. And I talked to Representative Metz about this in the past. I mentioned it to Senator Hayes. And our recommendation here is pretty simple. In order to maximize the council's effectiveness, the council recommends that section be revised to provide flexibility relative to the council's composition. And when I say that, the composition of the council remains the same, which is a little bit of flexibility. This morning, or earlier, you voted to accept a person on the council that was a PE, a professional engineer. In that position in the past, we have actually had a person that was for 12 years, as a matter of fact, was a geologist. And that worked out very well because there's no provision. We actually have a PE on the council already that was appointed simply as a lakefront homeowner. No specific qualifications. So we do have access to that. It would have been nice to have that geologist. So actually, the person that applied, I appointed my own discretion ex officio, and not a voting member, as a member of the council. So he sits on the council and advises us, as a member, a contributing member, but he has no ability to vote. And so it actually works out, but I would love to see someone like that appointed as well. So if we could have a little bit of flexibility and the removal of somebody that isn't contributing, that would be a great help to us, because there's 9 members on the council. We need every member. Okay, the next thing that I'd like to get over, just quickly, I just want to mention to you the real importance here of this report. If you go back to the first page after the cover, you'll see it's the executive summary. And in the executive summary, there's a couple of headings. Lake water level management, you heard Mike Perry just talk about that just briefly. Lake water level is important to all of us. We're not right now the process of MFLs, minimum flows and levels, are being developed by the district. As a matter of fact, it's supposed to go to peer review this month. We don't make a recommendation here because we don't believe that there's a complete data set in order to make a decision. This is the most important thing to us in water issues in Central Florida. No question about it. And we don't believe at the council that we have enough information to make this determination. Lake Poplar restoration. Senator Hayes, I think, has become pretty much an expert in this regard. He has taken a real initiative here. We at the council are very concerned about some of the things that have taken place over the years. One of the things is we have been stopped from actually restoring, in a timely manner, restoring the Lake Apopka North Shore. And because it was stated by study and by the experts in the field and investigators that it was misjudged what caused the bird deaths, and it's held us up in the restoration. It cost us a ton of money. I'd like to discuss that individually with every one of you. So those are two important points that I'd like to make here and have, and I'll be talking to your secretaries or whatever and see if I can get a hold.
Sounds good, Mr. Garner. Thank you. Senator Hayes for a question.
No, I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman, but in light of this request that we address the revision of the statute, I think it would help us expedite things if we have a motion here for the delegation to meet at a later date, perhaps in Tallahassee when we get everybody together, to approve a local bill revising the statutes that you would write.
Well, Senator Hayes, the only thing on that is that it's actually not a local bill. It would be a general bill because it's in a statute as opposed to a special act. Yeah, so we have a little more time for that reason. But I think we could probably need to get sponsors lined up and so forth. Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your input. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us now.
Skip, I'm not an expert yet by a long shot. Thanks for the compliment. I said I'm not an expert yet on Lake Apopka by a long shot. Thanks for the compliment.
You know what? I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it in the way, but you have taken a tremendous amount of. You have made a tremendous effort and spent a tremendous amount of time making yourself knowledgeable. So when I talk to you, you actually know what I'm talking about.
We're not through yet. We've got a lot of work to do.
No question.
I'm encouraged by it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mr. Andy Dubois, a constituent, followed by Debbie McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
How are you doing?
Thank you, members of the delegation, for this opportunity. I'm a native Floridian. I've been involved in Florida water policy the last few years. And as water policy, this legislative session is a state goal of leadership in the legislature. I'd like to talk to you about some priorities that I'm suggesting. As you know, since the 2009 legislative session, we've seen springs preservation bills that propose actions to regulate out of existence the 2.6 million septic tanks in Florida. This has occurred in spite of the fact that septic systems are the least significant source of nitrogen pollution to our water supply. Based on this history, I have no reason to believe that this focus will change in the 2015 session. With regard to septic systems, my proposal is that we look before we leap. And should appropriate funding be made available, please consider including these 4 items in Florida water policy. 1, authorize the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to fund inspections, including the funding necessary to hire and train additional qualified inspectors of septic systems. This will allow counties to exercise their option to adopt the 2012 inspection ordinance unencumbered by financial burden. By identifying worst, first, failing systems, we will provide the most immediate and broadest benefit to any water quality issue septic systems may be causing. Number 2, authorize the counties to apply for income qualifying grants from DEP to provide for funding necessary to restore the worst, first, failing systems to existing code compliance. And this is important, without rescinding existing permits for property owners and municipalities. Number 3, continue to fund the Florida Department of Health nitrogen reduction study, planned to be available in 2016 as a means to provide homeowners with affordable nitrogen-reducing alternatives to work in conjunction with conventional septic tanks. This language was especially intended for the pre-1983 vintage septic systems and written by the legislature into the 2008 and 2009 budget. Number 4, continue to fund the Basin Management Action Plan process as required by DEP. These 4 measures are targeted, tactical solutions protecting water quality from any possible ill effects caused by septic tanks. These 4 measures provide prudent use of tax dollars by properly addressing only what is broken, thus avoiding large-scale, costly, one-size-fits-all approaches that we've seen in the past. And in closing, the reality here is that more evidence exists to support the fact that legally permitted code-compliant septic systems are not a threat to our water quality problems. It is my view that we would fix 90% of any of the failing septic systems that exist today. And I'd like to meet with any of you to discuss opportunities for this type of legislation in the 2015 session.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Any questions? Yes, Senator Hukill, Vice Chair Hukill for a question.
Just a real quick question. Are you suggesting that we support legislation that will allow counties to evaluate all systems, whether they're failing or not?
The existing ordinance, 2012 ordinance, allows the counties to select specific areas within their county, to target specific areas either close to water or pre-1983. So it's not for everybody in the county. It's up to the counties to select, who they would inspect.
We're saying that's the ordinance that exists now, but what are you suggesting that would change? It to be across the board for everyone?
Yes. Yes.
Whether they're failing or not? Whether there's a complaint or a problem?
Well, they're encumbered now. The counties are encumbered now because they don't have the funding to go after the failing systems.
So let's inspect them all.
Let's let the counties decide to inspect what they inspect within their county.
Okay, thank you.
I'd love to meet with you to discuss it further.
Thank
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeWall. Very well. Thank you. Next up is Ms. Debbie McIntyre, Executive Director at Be Free Lake, followed by Nancy Glover.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie McIntyre with what used to be the State Climate Coalition and is now Be Free Lake. And of course, normally when I come to talk to you, I come to talk to you about substance abuse issues. Well, indirectly, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that today, but mostly to tell you about an initiative that we have going on in this county. The coalition, working with Partners Investing in People and the Public Safety Coordinating Council, would like to work with the county in creating a designated site within the county for offenders from Lake County returning to Lake County, whether it be from jail or prison. I've provided each of you with a 4-page handout outlining our proposal and our request for appropriation. This reentry center would connect the ex-offender with the necessary services that have been identified through a thorough needs assessment and screening that starts during the release planning process. Prior to their release, a reentry case manager or specialist would meet with eligible inmates. After release, inmates would be transported to an actual one-stop reentry center where they would meet with their probation officer, case manager, and community partners for identified needs. Do we need this reentry center? Most definitely. Not many of us are aware that our research shows that we have close to 1,000 inmates a month coming back to Lake County. Most of that is just from the Lake County Jail. We know that 70% of those inmates have substance abuse and mental health issues, and we know that 50% of them will return to jail within the next 5 years. In addition, we know that the Department of Corrections in Florida releases approximately 275 inmates a year just back to Lake County. The benefits to our county and state are numerous. We will provide an immediate connection to community corrections, and that's really important. It enhances public safety. It reduces future victimization through recidivism reduction. It organizes and coordinates county partners to provide consistent and complementary tools and services so that we don't have organizations repeating themselves. Risk reduction reforms are driven by evidence-based strategies and programs that actually meet our needs and our risk factors. Monitors performance and provides education with outcome or evaluation with outcomes. And lastly, it increases employment, stable housing, and treatment accessibility. This approach incorporates prevention, intervention, and enforcement. The goal is to stabilize the client and address their primary needs when they come out of jail or prison, such as shelter, clothing, food, identification, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, employability skills, and transportation. Your support of our request for funding for Reentry Center would enable us to truly make a difference in the quality of life for all of our Lake County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McIntyre. Anybody has any questions for Ms. McIntyre?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, Senator Hayes.
Ms. McIntyre, the $228,000 for year one is in the $77 billion state budget, not a whole lot of money.
No.
But I'm really curious what return has your organization calculated an estimate of the benefit in savings that would exceed this several times, I'm sure. Could you give us that type of information later on?
Yes, I can provide that for you, but let me share with you that we have a recidivism rate of 60% in this county. The cost to the residents of this county and our services is unbelievable. If we can stop that and initiate services for those people as soon as they're walking out of prison with a healthy plan for them, whether it be for just themselves, Senator, or their families and their families. We've seen Jacksonville do it. We've seen Marion County do it. We need this in Lake County.
Don't misunderstand my question. Okay. I'm supportive of your idea.
Great.
But when I take it to Tallahassee, or somebody on the panel here takes it to Tallahassee, if we had the numbers that we can say, look, guys, we're going to invest $228,000, and we expect a return of $2.5 million.
Okay.
That type of thing. So, no, I'm not in any way trying to downplay the impact that your proposal would have here. And you know, I'm sitting here thinking as you were talking about it, this could be construed by the prisoners, hopefully, as a welcome home package.
It is.
Guys,
many times it is.
And gals, we're glad you're back home. And here we are trying to help you now get readjusted so you won't wind up in the pokey again.
I'm sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McIntyre. Next up is Nancy Goldberg, President of Democratic Women's Club of Lake County, followed by Nancy Oakham of Fiscal Rangers. Ms. Goldberg, how are you doing?
Very well, and you?
Good to see you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Senators and Representatives. I bring you a request this afternoon that will have zero impact on the state budget, and yet will put Florida on not only the national map, but also the global map. First of all, I stand before you disappointed that you did not move forward this past session on Representative Eddie Gonzalez's workshop on the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. I don't know if any of you attended the 2013 workshop in Tallahassee, but it was standing room only. The committee room was packed, and during that testimony, there was not one single negative statement about the Equal Rights Amendment. So I think that speaks to the wide acceptance of the ERA. And as a matter of fact, when you ask constituents and citizens of this state and this country, if the ERA has been passed, 72% think it's already a constitutional amendment. Women have made incredible progress over the last 40 years since the ERA was passed in Congress and sent to the individual states for ratification. But unfortunately, as we all know, judicial attitudes change. Congress can make changes to the laws, they can repeal, they can amend. So we still need the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. Efforts recently on behalf of women to turn back their rights in education, in health and employment, and even on the domestic violence level still indicates that we need the Equal Rights Amendment. So what would the Equal Rights Amendment do here in Florida? Well, we still have unfair pay for women in the state of Florida and the country overall. Senator Joyner and Representative Cruz have filed Senate Bill 98 and House Bill 25, known as the Helen Gordon Davis Fair Pay Act, to rectify unfair pay for women. It's still possible for pregnant women to be discriminated against in Florida, for example, in employment and housing, because they have no protections under the law. Representative Berman and Senator Thompson filed legislation last session to include pregnancy in the protected classes under the Florida Civil Rights Act. This bill, having passed all of the committee assignments unanimously in both the House and the Senate, unfortunately was never brought to the floor of either the Senate or the House for a final vote. This is just disgraceful. So you see that we are really trying to piecemeal with equal pay legislation and with pregnancy protection what the Equal Rights Amendment would do. So I ask each of you this year, when the Equal Rights Amendment comes before you, either in committee or on the floor of the House or the Senate, that you vote in support of the Equal Rights Amendment. Florida women deserve nothing less than equality, and please ensure that this year, the Equal Rights Amendment is passed in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melbourne. Any questions, members? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Mr. Yoakum, Fiscal Rangers.
Vance Yoakum, I think you have a handout, it's about 4 or 5 pages for me, listing a number of items. My big ask is to ask you, and it lists a number of items related towards transparency, oversight, and accountability in state and local government. And my big ask for you is that I would hope that you might start setting aside 5 or 10% of your time to follow up and to ensure that improvements are implemented like the ones that I gave you here in oversight, accountability, and to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, I just had one came up on the 18th of this month. Your Department of Insurance, and it's not in here because it came up so late. The Department of Insurance issued orders to transfer 25,000 citizens policyholders over to a third-party company without any competitive review by those people, without any real notification. And I only know this because I'm one of them, and I got these surprising series of letters. And to me, as an experienced corporate auditor and an anti-corruption investigator in Iraq, it sure sounds to me like somebody got paid off, and I'm just going to say that. There seems to be cronyism or something behind this, and I'm going to call each of your offices. I'm going to request that you initiate an investigation. Now, I know they've been under pressure to move a lot of policies off of citizens and out to the real world, but when you move it to a company that was only established in September of this month, and you notify people on the 18th of November, just before the holidays, that they automatically, you told them earlier that they could opt out, and they submitted forms to opt out. Those were ignored, and then you find that they get a letter that says, well, you've been transferred over to this other company, and calls to citizens and the Department of Insurance, and calls to the insurance company itself, called Mount Beacon in Tampa, that they are not going to process the opt-out people. They can't stay with citizens and they're just being transferred, and you weren't even given policies to review or to sign. And I think there's something really questionable going on with that. So now to continue to the other recommendations here, I talked about very briefly. I think that constitutional officers that are elected have no real accountability or oversight in my viewpoint. Here locally, we have constitutional officers, including the sheriff. There are no public hearings on their budget. There are no posting of their detailed budgets online. There are no peer reviews. There are no performance audits. And to me, as somebody who worked in major corporations, I think that's disgraceful. And so I would, again, just end this with saying you have a list of a lot of other things in here. I would hope that you might allocate 5 to 10% of your time to follow up on these, whether to initiate requests for investigations through your legislative audit group or take other action, because you all have programs that you're involved in, but you need to have better oversight and transparency over these. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoakum. Next up is Barbara Weiss, although I believe I received a communication from her that she was not going to be presenting. Is this Barbara Weiss here? Okay, I believe I remembered that correctly, so we're going to skip to Mr. Mark Fisher. Is Mr. Fisher here? I don't see him.
No, he's not.
Okay, then we're going to go to the public input requests that we have separate from the agenda. And the first person here is Frank Hilo, Executive Director, CEO, MC, dealing with community associations and House Bill 737.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman
yes.
and delegation members, on behalf of millions of Florida homeowners and more than 18,000 licensed community association managers who work for them, I am Frank Hilo, the Executive Director of COMC. I'm also a licensed community association manager. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the leadership you provided last session in passing House Bill 7037. It was passed by solid bipartisan majorities, and this new law was a needed remedy to address a very real threat of significantly higher costs potentially being forced onto unsuspecting homeowners who live in HOAs. Had the legislature not acted immediately, HOAs would have been required to hire costly lawyers to do everything from declaring a quorum at a board meeting to hiring someone to mow the grass. Or they could face the threat of a third-degree felony. Why? Because some lawyers at the Florida Bar, in the absence of any evidence suggesting a problem, allege that these types of everyday activities are the unlicensed practice of law or a third-degree felony, and thus should only be allowed to be done by a licensed lawyer, not the licensed managers who work for the HOA. The end result of this could have been dramatically higher costs on millions of homeowners to pay for these expensive lawyers at a time when we just could not afford it. Thanks to you in House Bill 7037, CAMs are no longer in jeopardy of being charged with a third-degree felony, and homeowners are not paying higher costs. So what's ahead of us? Because of the significant process and progress that you made last year on behalf of homeowners, we ask for your continued support to protect the success of House Bill 7037 this coming session, as well as to oppose any attempts to increase cost on homeowners or impair HOA's ability to conduct its affairs on behalf of its homeowners. For the 2015 session, we would simply ask you to allow 7037 to continue to be implemented and for no new or substantive changes to Chapter 718, 719, or 720 to be undertaken, especially any changes that would be considered controversial. Now, one such idea that we've heard about is being circulated by the Florida Bar and title companies to arbitrarily limit the amount that can be charged for providing what is known as an estoppel certificate. An estoppel certificate is a required document that informs a prospective home buyer of any existing liens, costs, or obligations that must be satisfied or are understood prior to closing. This document is often provided by community association managers at the request of an HOA as a contractually provided service between the association and the CAM. It is our understanding that the Florida Bar and title companies are considering asking you to file legislation to override that contractual relationship between the CAM and the HOA, by inconsistently and arbitrarily limiting the cost of an estoppel certificate only when it's provided by a CAM, while lawyers and title companies would be free to continue charging unlimited fees for providing the same service. This is very controversial, and in light of this fact that the worst offenders of exorbitant and inflated costs on homeowners are the very ones proposing this idea. We would ask that you to not entertain any legislation that addresses this matter unless it is 100% agreed to by all parties before it is filed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kilo. Any questions, members? Okay, great. Barbara Willard is next, the Executive Director of the Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition. Followed by Ira Nodelman. We already had heard from Mr. Nodelman. He filled out a separate sheet, but he's for American Law Association. Ms. Willard, good afternoon. You're welcome, recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you. I am Barbara Wheeler, the Executive Director of Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition. One of the 28 coalitions are lead agencies in the state of Florida that provide services to the homeless of our great state of Florida. One of the things that, or several of the things that from the federal perspective that we are required to do is to address the needs of the chronically homeless, veterans, families, those that are leaving hospitals that are homeless, mental health facilities, leaving correctional systems, and those aging out of foster care. That is a very large job, and one of the avenues that we have determined in the past, and we appreciate the fact that you funded the Challenge Grant Program last year, and we are asking for recurring funding because we can use those dollars in our local communities to address specific issues because, for example, the rural communities are very different from a Miami-Dade or a Hillsborough County. So one of the examples of funding that we're receiving and that we'll be using those funds for is to create a drop-in center, which Lifestream Behavioral Center will be operating. They are bringing match dollars by providing case management, and it will provide the opportunity for those that are chronically homeless on the streets to come in, get connected to case management, to receive very essential services such as being able to take a shower, to wash their clothes, and things like having a mailing address so that they can get connected to services. These types of programs are not something that you can normally find grant funding for, and yet we find that this is very important as far as trying to get, especially those chronically homeless, mentally ill, off the streets and into permanent housing. One of the other things that the Florida Coalition for the Homeless supports, as does the 28 lead agencies, is the making the base operational funding that was funded in the 2014-15 year as recurring. Those dollars are helping us be able to have staffing to do all of the things that the federal government is looking for us to do, as well as those items that are listed under the state statutes that as lead agencies for the state of Florida we're required to do. And I gave the example last night at our Sumter delegation meeting. I've been in this position for 8 years as the only person operating in 4 counties, Citrus, Hernando, Lake, and Sumter. And if it were not for these funds, we would not have been able to hire a staff person to help me. And I cannot begin to tell you how much that means to our 4 counties.
Very good. Did you finish, Ms. Wheeler?
Yes, there is a third item that has to do with relating to public records exemption, and the Florida Coalition for the Homeless, as well as our lead agencies, will be in contact to bring more information regarding that particular issue.
Very well. Questions? So I'm seeing you, Ms. Wheeler. Thank you very much for your input today.
And I thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. And then we have a presentation from Julia Grimes, a parent and vice chair of the School Advisory Council at Leesburg High School, addressing end-of-course exams. Hello, Ms. Grimes.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am a parent of a child at Leesburg High. I also
used to teach at Leesburg High School. I am completely against testing that's going on. It's what everybody else has said, so I'm going to focus on end of the year exams, or end of the year course exams. I have a 10th grader who is, this year, I guess what was voted on was that every single class now has an EOC, on top of whatever their teacher gives them. So my daughter is not only testing at the end of the year with what her teacher thinks she needs to know, but also she has to prove herself to statewide people, and it's not right. Her teacher should be enough. That should be enough. If the state wants to come and look at those tests, fine. But it's what the teacher is taught all year, not just what somebody thinks they should have been taught all year. And I'll give you an example, because my daughter just has been in school, let's see, 13 weeks. She just got a chemistry teacher. She has been set up with 3 or 4 different substitute teachers all year long, but yet will still be accountable for an end-of-the-year exam, which is wrong. They can say, we've showed her these slides, we've worked on the computers. That's not like having a teacher in front of her. And yet they're going to still say, oh, she failed the end-of-the-year course exam. She's not a very good student. And that's not right. She also is in yearbook. You're giving end-of-the-year course exams in yearbook. Rather than doing yearbook and learning that way, you're having to prove that you've learned something instead of just to the teacher. PE also has end-of-the-year course exam. Why? Can't we just have a coach go out and teach them PE? They've learned. Why should they have to tell somebody they've learned? So I'm here to ask you to sign anything that you can sign to get rid of EOCs. I know that they have been in some core classes like Algebra 1, and that's been going on. Some people are happy with that. I am not. I think the teacher should have the power. Please put power back with the teachers who are there every single day. And Senator Hayes, you asked why we're spending 4 times as much money. It's because we're micromanaging our teachers rather than letting them teach. I have an English teacher that I would say, here, teach my daughter English. I know that she will know it by the end of the year. But because he's being told what to do, he can't teach what he wants to teach. So please sign whatever you can to stop micromanaging. Ask each individual school what they need. I see coaches coming in, and of course my time's up.
No, finish your thoughts.
I just would like to see more local control. Put the power back with the principals. Put the power back with the teachers. It will help the students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grimes. No questions? Okay, thank you. Members, that is the end of the public appearance records that I had. Please, we're going to go to that, but before, I want to make sure no one else is expecting to be heard and somehow their form didn't get to me. Has everybody been heard who asked to be heard today? Okay, good. I don't see anyone else coming forward, so that will conclude the public testimony portion of the agenda. It brings us to discussion. That was just to put on there, members, for anything we want to discuss among ourselves here in this forum.
I just want to add to Mrs. Grimes' illustration of that teacher, the English teacher. That's what I was talking about earlier. Can you imagine, as an attorney, or me as a dentist, or Senator Hukill as an attorney, if all our professional training was ignored by someone supervising us that said, no, you have to do it this way. We no longer have any respect for your professional judgment and opinion and experience as an attorney or me as a dentist. So now you have to do it our way. I would tell them to stick it in their left ear. And I wouldn't blame these teachers if they tell us to do the same thing with them. And consequently, we're losing. We are really having a talent drain that is going to impact this state for a long time if we don't set about to correct it right away. Just my 2 cents worth.
Okay, members, anybody want to be heard on anything? Just put there as we have a place to have it if we want to have the discussion, but it doesn't mean we have to have it. Just it's there if we need it. Is anybody who should be heard on anything that we might want to discuss? series of presentations this afternoon. I want to call the discussion part of the agenda concluded then, but I'm not rushing it, I'm just making sure. Okay, good. All right, that brings us to election of chair and vice chair. We do this every 2 years at the end of the meeting, and then the person takes over the ball and runs with it for the next two meetings. All right, Senator Hayes makes a motion to elevate vice chair people to the chairmanship. Is there a second?
I thought it was nominated.
It goes back and forth, and I had it 2 or 3 times before we ever got to that.
And it is alternating the chambers as well. So.
Senator Hill will let me know the game, honey. It's Lindsay's going to have to do all the work. She's the one who's throwing the pin.
And she's not smiling.
Representative Sullivan, did you second that? Okay, so now it's actually alive. The motion is alive. It's viable.
Another rookie mistake.
Now, is there...
Never take on a senior senator, that was a big mistake. Let me do it, I'm leaving.
Is there debate on the motion?
It's debate, let me do this.
All right, I'm going to close debate and call the question. And all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We have a vote of 4 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. I think we're going to record you as a yes, though, because I knew that was tongue-in-cheek.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Chair. It will be after we adjourn today, you can take it over. So, we need a vice chair, though.
Yes,
and it needs to be a House member because presumably we rotate this.
I'm going to nominate Ms. Sullivan.
Okay.
I
Second.
second that.
See how it works, gentlemen?
See how it works? I think Representative O'Toole is talking real quick.
Is there any debate on the motion? There being none?
Call the question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, carries unanimously. So we now have our chair and our vice chair for the next term selected. And now at this time we'll come to closing comments, members, and we'll start on this side. And Representative Sullivan, you can begin, and we'll just go across the dais and close out our comments for today.
Thank you to everyone who's still left in the room who came and spoke today. Know that you've been heard. And for those of you who want to tele meetings, please do see, I don't want to speak for everyone, but at least for me, please do go ahead and see my legislative aid, and we can go ahead and get your contact information so that we can make that happen. And I'm looking forward to getting to work on these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's left here, you're right, and those who had to leave. I've never seen a group of presenters who were more ready and had all of their homework and their ducks in a row, which is very, very good because it gives us something to take back and reference and refer to, etc. Because believe it, when we start to digest all of this, it's good to have it in writing. So I appreciate that. Once again, I want to thank the delegation for, thank you, Senator Hayes, for that. Yes, for that vote of confidence. And I really want to welcome our new vice chair and our new representative, seriously. Thank you all, and please have a very happy holiday.
Senator Hayes?
I think I've said enough today. I certainly extend my appreciation to those who did come, those of you who are still here, but those who had to leave as well. This is what democracy is all about. We have lost hundreds of thousands of men and women. Right now, we have men and women that are losing arms and legs to defend our ability to come here as concerned citizens and express our views, regardless of whether you have any agreement or not. This is a treasure, and we dare not take it for granted, and we dare not let anybody take it from us.
Gerald Toole?
That's what I was going to say. But seeing that I don't get a chance to say that.
You wouldn't say it with that southern drawl, though, man.
You gotta stop calling me honey. My husband really doesn't like you to call me honey.
I love it.
Well, that's okay.
Let it go. Stop. Stop right there.
Go Representative O'Toole.
Well, I think there's a lot of people to thank. Everyone that came, obviously they're passionate and they believe in what they say. And I just wish we had every answer here. We don't. We'll go back. We'll take some of this to the committees. We will continue to work with the Governor's Office on education. We will continue to work with the Department of Education. We will have some education in Tallahassee this coming year on education for every member in the House. Today, lots of very good things were said. Some things weren't all factual, so we really do need to get a document out that tells the truth, the whole truth, and make changes when necessary, because that's what we've been asked to do. So we will do that in the education, in my committee. The other thing I think we have to thank is Representative Metz. You've done a great job. You are meticulous. Your staff is meticulous. The work they put out, you couldn't be any better. We probably won't see this again for a while. This is how Representative Hukill is going to go. She's going to put it all in the pile and say, now, put it in order yourself and let's get going. So you're going to love it. You're going to love
what you had, you're gone.
No, I love working that way. I really do. I can work with almost anybody, but Representative Metz, you've done a great job on this. And your staff, thank you to all of you, and those of you who are still in the audience, thank you. We saw it last night, and the message is pretty much the same everywhere we go. Spoken a little different each place you go, but it's been received loud and clear. So thank you very much for your attention to all the detail.
Well, thank you, Chair O'Toole, and thank you, members, for a great meeting today. Before I adjourn the meeting, I just want to thank everybody who presented today. We had a great meeting. We had a lot of information. A lot of it came in ahead of time, and we have a lot more that we got today. And there'll be a lot more to acquire before session begins in March. But I want to say that the things that we accomplish as legislators are not possible without teamwork. Teamwork is the overarching principle, I think, that applies to a legislative body when you're trying to move a state like Florida ahead, 20 million people with all the complexities that it represents, all the diversity and complexities that it represents. And each of us has our own little team. In the case of a House member, we have one district aide, one legislative aide. My aides are here, and they've done a great job for me to help me do a great job for my constituents in turn. And so it's a team effort, and do appreciate the good work that went into this preparation that Jennifer did. And we're beginning to work on our legislative proposals with Sarah, so we have a lot of things that we're working on as a team in District 32, and I know each of you have the same philosophy. But then, as a delegation, we're a team, and nothing happens in Tallahassee again without teamwork, and so many things were accomplished in the past few years for Lake County because of teamwork. Like I know, for example, when I have a budget issue, I'll go to Senator Hayes and make sure that he's aware of it, and then he'll work it as hard as he can in the Senate. And sometimes I come up short in the House, and it's in the Senate budget, but not in the House budget, or it could be vice versa. And whatever happens, we take it and we work with it as a team. Chair O'Toole, you were great with helping me through the budget process these past two sessions in particular, because the first two that I had, we didn't have any money, so we weren't really doing anything. But once we started having a little money, we could start taking the request from Lake County a little more seriously, because we knew it was possible at least to do something. We want to vet it carefully according to our principles, and then work it. And Chair O'Toole, you were great, just like Senator Hayes, to help me learn the process and advocate for these things that we accomplished for Lake County, the things that we heard about, like the Science Magnet Project in the South End, and the Center for Advanced Manufacturing, and some of the things like at the First Baptist Church in Leesburg, the Genesis Center. There's a lot of good things that happen because of teamwork. Sometimes they'll single out one of us for what we did to help that along, and I'm trying to remember every time to let them know it's teamwork, that we all operate as a team for Lake County. That's what this delegation is all about. That's why we exist on that letterhead that you see, Lake County Legislative Delegation with the two seals on it. So it's been an honor and pleasure to be the chair of that delegation, that team, if you will, for the last 2 years. I commend Senator Hukill on her ensuing 2-year term as chair, and our new vice chair, Representative Sullivan. Wish you the best of success in running the meetings in the next 2 years, and we'll be here to support you as a team member. And feel free to contact our staff to help you benefit you by in that regard. And finally, I just want to thank everybody who helped us have this meeting today. Once again, Lake Sumter State College, our host. And with that, is there any other business to come before the Lake County Legislative Delegation today? Seeing and hearing none, then without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.